Namaste and good morning to everyone. I hope it is audible to everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you. Namaste and good morning to everyone. Namaste. I feel honored to all the participants to welcome for this virtual conference and my fellow colleagues from CES as well as Chanakya University for taking a keen part in this program. I am sure that you will all feel enriched with knowledge after completion of this event. Before we start the event, I request everyone to join a small prayer to seek Lord Ganesha's strength, the bestower of Siddhi and success, and seek his blessing. अजं निर्विकल्पं निराकारमेकं निरानन्दमानन्दमद्वैतपूर्णं परं निर्गुणं निर्विशेषं निरीहं परब्रह्मरूपं गणेशं भजेम गुणातीतमानं चिदानन्दरूपं चिदाभासकं सर्वगं ज्ञानगम्यं मुनिध्येयमाकाशरूपं परेशं परब्रह्मरूपं गणेशं भजेम. Thank you. Now, I request Dr. Gaurisha, Director of CES, Bangalore, to welcome the honored speakers and the virtual gathering. Over to you, sir.
He's muted.
Yeah.
Gaurisha, you are muted.
Namaste, Namaskara, everyone. It's my privilege to welcome all the dignitaries and also participants for this particular virtual conference on integration of Indian knowledge system or Indian knowledge tradition to our management education. I think all over the country, there are a lot of discussions are happening. And also, I think nowadays, there are quite many people and institutions are working on Indian knowledge tradition and also bringing that into the mainstream part of mainstream education. So Center for Educational and Social Studies, which is located in Bangalore, is also working towards building a community of who are working in the area of Indian knowledge system and bringing that particular tradition, the rich knowledge heritage in the area of commerce, management, trade, economics, into the management education. CES started its operations in 2006-7. The prime objective when it was started to contribute towards social development, building a narration for or narrative building for our various branches of social science and humanities, and also work in the area of India studies and make all attempts to provide quality education and whatever the strategies that required to provide that kind of a quality education, put all our effort so that we can bring some kind of a social changes. So with that purpose, that is bringing social changes or social reforms through and with education, with that purpose we are working for last 15 plus years. CES presently is working mainly on education and Bharatiya management. In the education sector, we are in all the three areas, that is basically research, capacity building, and policy advocacy. The very recent National Education Policy 2020, CES has contributed a lot right from the development of the policy from 2016-17 onwards. And today, and I think we are also working towards implementation of the policy in the days to come. So I think more than 200 seminars, webinars, conferences CES has conducted in collaboration with many universities and colleges across the country. And presently, we are conducting a lot of workshops on key ideas of NEP from the point of view of implementation at the institution level, college and universities level. In addition to that, faculty capacity building, working with institutions for overall development, working on the various key issues, problems, areas in the education sector, taking research projects, and of course, there are many developments which are taking place in the education sector. The private government at the both state and central level are coming out with a lot of guidelines and regulations. So CES continuously working on all such regulatory issues and guidelines, conducting a lot of public consultations and providing the feedback, suggestions, recommendations to the government agencies. All this work CES is doing presently in the area of education. And one more important area that we are working is Bharatiya management. 2018, we started this journey. Dr. G.P. Sudhakar sir is guiding along with Professor M.K. Sridhar sir, and we are able to build a small community when we hosted a national level workshop on Bharatiya management in 2018. And we are into both area, management of education and management of the management that is Bharatiya thought and practices. So in that area, we started our working now. We are putting our baby steps. We started our own Prabandhan, a knowledge repository to provide all the required information in terms of articles, in terms of popular talks, in terms of courses available in different universities, and various other rich content which directly or indirectly related to various concepts and practices of management from the perspective of India, Bharat. So that we started a baby steps we have put, and Prabandhan is now on live with lot of content. And we started a research center to work on the management area recognized by Vishwesvaraya Technological University, Belagavi, Karnataka. Like that, one by one, we have taken step towards bringing this Bharatiya management into the mainstream education in management institutions. In that journey, now we have conducted a couple of conferences and seminars, continuously working on case development and writing content on the practices and also the concept in the management from the perspective of Bharatiya. So all this work we are doing in the area of Bharatiya management. In addition to that, couple of other new initiatives we have taken, like a mega survey in that is student satisfaction, to analyze the student satisfaction towards education in the country, to build a researchers learning community. All these are our new initiatives that they have taken up for the year 2023 onwards. I think infographics and edu updates, Shikshana Mahiti, all these are coming into you, most of your inbox every month. So I think these are the very brief introduction about the CES and the Bharatiya management unit which is working inside the CES. Recently, we have started our own university, that is Chanakya University in Bengaluru. So all this is our what is that work we are doing, and with the community of the people like those who are attending here as speakers and the participants, we would like to take all these initiatives forward and build that kind of a change which is really required to bring all the Indian knowledge tradition into the mainstream, not only in the area of education, in all the sectors and walks of our life. So with this, a brief introduction, I extend a warm welcome to Madam Gauri Maulikar. She has an authority on the Indian knowledge system with a vast experience. So in all her talks or work that has come from with her experience and commitment towards the work which she is carrying from past many number of years. Madam is associated with Chinmaya International Foundation, the former Vice Chancellor. It is our honor to have Madam you for this particular conference. I extend a warm welcome on behalf of the CES family. I extend a warm welcome to Professor Venkat Raghavan. Is our own person, I feel like that. So We started a small research journey also with Raghavan sir. Even today he is contributing for that project. So now he is associate assistant professor at IIT. So it's our privilege because the person whom we worked for a short period of time, now part of an IIT and contributing towards the area which are very much required for India today and tomorrow. I think in that context, so it is our privilege to have Dr. Venkat Raghavan, assistant professor from IIT Bhubaneswar, for this particular conference. I extend a warm welcome to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
I extend a warm welcome to Dr. GP Sudhakar, sir. He is our mentor for entire Bharatiya management work that we are carrying out at CES. So a selfless kind of a service that he is doing for CES and the community of management, specifically Bharatiya management. So, sir, with lot of commitment, with lot of experience, and with lot of research that every day he conducts on the areas related to management and Indian management, I think that is giving lot of insights to the team at CES and also whoever we connect for this particular task. So I extend a warm welcome to GP Sudhakar sir. You are one of the instrumental to build this unit at CES and also to host this particular conference. I extend a warm welcome to you, sir. I extend warm welcome to all my executive council members and general body members of Center for Education and Social Studies, President Professor M.K. Sridhar, Secretary Sri Nagaraj Reddy, and the entire office bearers. I extend a warm welcome. I extend a warm welcome to all the team members, research professors, and all the associates of CES who are working every day at the CES and in realizing the objectives of CES, their contribution is, I think, appreciable. So I extend a warm welcome to my own team. And most importantly, I extend a warm welcome to all the participants who are really interested in this area to work and take it forward in the days to come. So I think your contribution, not only attending this conference, your contribution towards this journey is very essential. With that humble request, I extend a warm welcome to all the participants. Once again, I welcome all of you for this knowledge journey, bringing IKS to the management education. Hope the three speakers will definitely enlighten all of us on the various topics that is kept for this particular conference. I welcome all of you. Namaste. Sindhuja, over to you.
Thank you very much, sir, for having a warm welcome to everyone. So now let me give a brief about the conference theme. So the success of NEP and its special component of Indian knowledge system rely heavily on the shoulder of the faculties of higher education institutions. So behind the spirit of the today's conference aims to provide a platform to understand about the seamless integration of IKS with modern management subject. And based on that, the following aspects are organized in three sessions with respect to key eminent speakers. There's the first session by focusing on rationale of highlighting IKS in NEP, and second followed by useful resources, IKS resources, and ideas of integration of IKS into management education. To make sure that we are helping you for better engagement of the session, so we have a chat box to source your questions. Feel free to drop the questions with respect to the topic. So we will answer your question at the end of the session. So with us we have Ms. Paushali Datta, who will moderate the Q&A session. So we will pick up the most voted question so the speaker can answer them at the end of the session. So let me introduce the speaker, the first session speaker. Today we are pleased to introduce the Dr. Gauri Mohalkar, Academic Director, Chinmaya International Foundation, Kerala. She is the former officiating Vice Chancellor, Dean of Faculty, and she former head of Sanskrit Department, Mumbai University, and former head of Gurudev Tagore Chair of Comparative Literature, Mumbai. She completed her PhD on Vedic elements in Puranic mantras and rituals from Mumbai University. She is a recipient of gold medals and various honors. To list a few, Menek Jilimji Gold Medal for a dissertation on ancient Greek dharmas and Bharata Natya Shastra, and awarded the International Ramakrishna Award for by the Canadian Education Foundation, Guru Gaurav Puraskar, Kavi Kulaguru Kalidas Sanskrit Sadhana Puraskar, Sanskrit Pandit Puraskar, Adi Shankaracharya Puraskar, list goes on. She has traveled across many states, US during September, October, gave lectures on different topics related to Sanskrit, Indology, IKS, philosophy at various educational institutes, including premier universities like State University of New York, Columbia University, University of California, Berkeley University, Pace University, University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, etc. Adding to her credits, she has initiated courses in manuscriptology, Bhakti literature, mysticism in the Sanskrit department of Mumbai University. Recently, from last 3 years, she has started a lecture series called Open Learning for All, OLA, based on IKS topics. She has published more than 90 research articles in English, Marathi, Sanskrit, and Hindi. About 18 students have been awarded PhD under her guidance, and various projects from ICSSR, UGC regulatory bodies to this recent one, the project funded from ICSSR on Indian intellectual knowledge tradition, development of educational resources, capacity building, and research for higher education institution. She is a recipient of Adi Shankar Fellowship by the Acharya Sahakar Samastrik Ektanyas, Ministry of Culture, Madhya Pradesh, for the work 2-year project on biography philosophy of Mahatmya of tradition Adi Shankara. So indeed, it's a great privilege to have you here, ma'am. And thank you, ma'am, for taking the time to join us today. Now, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Sindhuja ji, Gaurish ji, and all other panelists here. And I will start with an invocation of Saraswati and straightway go to sharing my slides. So, I'm disabled to screen sharing, Sindhuja ji. Host disabled participant screen sharing. Can you enable me?
Yes, ma'am, I have done, ma'am.
Yeah. Surasura Sevita Pada Pankaja, Kare Virajat Kamaniya Pustaka, Virinchi Patni Kamala Sanastita, Saraswati Nrityatu Vachi Me Sada. So this is a rationale, highlighting IKS in NEP 2020. What is the rationale and what are the points of this rationale? So I'll just go through all these things right from the inception of this NEP committee headed by Professor Kasturi Rangan from ISRO, and a 12-member committee submitted a draft report to Indian government in May 2019. And first time ever in the history of mankind, perhaps, or at least in the history of Indian education system, we had Indian citizen, a poll was given. I mean, they could register their opinions on this draft NEP 2020, and then it was accepted by the Ministry of Education in July 2020. Karnataka was the first state. And I feel so proud because I'm born a Kannadiga. So it's implemented from 2021. And many IITs and IIMs and many universities, they got inspired and motivated. I mean, it was just a sort of renaissance of Bharatiya Jnana Parampara. Call it IKS, Indian Knowledge System, or Bharatiya Knowledge System. Some people say, no, we should not be using Indian, we should be using Bharatiya. So Bharatiya Jnana Parampara or Bharatiya Knowledge Systems. Now, while having this NEP, the committee had threefold vision, basically. It's an education system rooted, basically, this in Indian ethos, the Bharatiya Drishti, and the sustainability was the main point of discussion there. And a vibrant knowledge system should be created and Bharat should become a global knowledge superpower. That was the aim for that. And the second one was, the pedagogy and the curriculum that should be developed out of our own legacy, our own history, and having utmost respect towards all the fundamental duties and the Constitution, respecting the Constitution, the values and everything, and create something, which would change the world. And thirdly, it was, a deeply rooted pride for being an Indian. Nowadays, we feel many times that the youth more, emulating the West in Kaya, Vacha, Manasa, Karmana, and therefore they are sort of severed from the Indian soil and the Indian roots. So deep-rooted pride in being Indian, not only in thought, but in action, spirit, intellect, everything, and develop a knowledge system with values and dispositions and support responsible commitment, etc. So, and make responsible global citizen. So this was the threefold vision behind NEP. And the key changes which were envisioned are some of these, like interdisciplinarity and multidisciplinarity is the key thing, because you can't have, like watertight compartments of arts, science, commerce, engineering, medicine, and all that, and restrict the Indian knowledge language or the philosophy section, and the others are deprived of that knowledge. So interdisciplinarity and multidisciplinarity is the key for that. And flexibility to choose the medium. Many times, especially in the rural India, students find it difficult to cope up with English, which is as foreign to them as Greek and Latin for the city people. So, and all like 5 fingers are not uniform. All the people in the society from all different strata of the society are not uniform, they are not similar, and therefore there should be some flexibility, and there should be some, some point of exit for all these students at different levels. And therefore, if they study after +2 1 year, then they should be given a certificate. For 2 years, it should be a diploma. For 3 years, it should be an advanced diploma. And if they complete 4 years, then they can have a degree. So different levels of exits are created in this, and they all have some value. It is not that, the degree is not obtained by the student, and therefore he is not worth doing anything. So at that particular level, when he exits, there should be some job opportunity for him or her. And now the main key 4 points. My talk is based on these 4 points. Basically, what NEP has and how and why NEP, the committee got inspired through the Indian knowledge systems for incorporating these 4 key elements in their draft. Okay. So the first, as I was saying, briefly, I introduced that it is Bharatiya Drishti, Indian perspective in every curriculum, in every syllabus formation, course formation. And this is commercializing education was never thought by Indians. Education was, in fact, when it was the Gurukula system earlier, it was free. And only at the end of the graduation were the Avabhrita Snana of the graduate, to be exact, to be perfect. The Guru used to ask for Guru Dakshina. Now, for many reasons and for many obvious reasons, that system can't be implemented now. I don't claim that we have to go back to that Gurukula system as it was, but some points from that Gurukula system could be brought in. That is the overall view, not myself, but of the 12-member committee. And partially, if we can follow that, so there should be no restriction on educating or imparting knowledge and disseminating knowledge to the seekers. So that is the main point. And another thing is, the sustainability and eternality of IKS. when we talk of sustainable development, is Bharatiya knowledge system sustainable enough? And history, our civilizational percolation down to this tradition, down to this generation, proves it beyond any doubts that it is sustainable. When we talk about so many civilizations in the world, all of them have been destroyed. They are nowhere to be seen in the course of the time, in the tide of the time. But Indian civilization has retained itself. Unless it is sustainable, it wouldn't have been able to retain itself. And unless, because it has sustained, because it has retained, and therefore it is very, very relevant even now. So it is, nobody should question what is the relevance of Indian knowledge systems or Indian civilization in the modern era. And how we can bring in that. What was our educational policy? It was, the beauty and grace to education. That is the one of the points in IKS. Beauty also should be brought in, aesthetics in education. And I think Rabindranath Tagore carried it forward. We'll come to that in the next slide. And grace to the educational system. So, Satyam Shivam Sundaram, this could be the ethos of Bharata. From the Atharva Veda point of view, we could see it is Satyam, Ritam, and Brihat. Satya, that is the truth. Ritam, that is the dynamism, the change, the flux. And Brihat, the great. Because, Nalpe Sukhamasti. Yovai Bhuma Tat Sukham. Nalpe Sukhamasti says Chandogya Upanishad. You should not be, satisfied with meager things, meagerality, or, very triviality. You should always aspire for big. So being that great, that is the grace, that is the greatness of education. Now, when we talk about sustainability, the temples built in India thousands of years ago. Now, because I'm staying in Kerala, I have visited so many, unsung temples, which haven't come to limelight, so to say. So, but I have visited so many of them, especially the Nalambalam in the Piravam district here, and every temple is minimum 1,000 to 1,500 years old. When the modern structures collapse within 20, 30 years, how we could have such a sustainability of the temples. And I'll come to that when we come to the Konark temple or the Brihadishwara temple, what all things are there. So this sustainability is the first point, or the Bharatiya Drishti, the first point, how it is interwoven with the multidisciplinarity which comes the next. Then the Dharma and the Purushartha concepts of IKS, they are again the pivotal points which play very important roles in this sustainability. And after this Macaulay's education policy, or after the Britishers started ruling us, they, just wiped out that memorization part, or Kanthasthikarana as rote learning. And we have almost, we can't ask our children to memorize certain things. But even now it has been proved that Kanthasthikarana has helped people, and it has saved many old people from Alzheimer's and the things like that, which, normally in the old age people suffer. But Kanthasthikarana, and in fact, we have some of the examples where the person is almost, in coma or can't speak, but he can recite the Vedic richas or the mantras, which he has been trained into right from his childhood. So we should take some part from that. Maybe the excess part could be ruled out, but it should not be just, brushed aside as rote learning. Then in grasping, retaining and retrieving capacity, Atmavare Drashtavyaha, Shrotavyaha, Mantavyaha, Nididhyasitavyascha, the Bradaranyaka becomes the key, the Sopana Marga for learning, for any education system. This is like a ladder of ascent. So listen, first see, then listen, then reflect, and then concentrate. So these are the higher steps to for education, excellence in education. And Seva, of course, which was there in the Gurukula. The students used to fetch water from the river and wash clothes of the gurus and do all the things, the farming, the grazing of the cows, and so many things, and do the education and learn also. So Seva has been included in the NEP now. Now, when I was talking about the aesthetics in education, I see in the 20th century, Rabindranath Tagore continued with that. And recently, I think 3 months back, in November or December, I gave some talk to this in Bangalore-based Srishti. In that seminar, I gave some talk on aesthetics in education. And that time I had an opportunity to go through Tagore's works. And he got Shantiniketan as a replica of ancient Indian Gurukula system. Then Sriniketan for bringing in the reforms of village communities, the cottage industries and all that. And Vishwabharati as an international university. So in his words, paradise is not fancy. It can be created here on this planet itself if you bring change in education and bring a little bit of aesthetics in that. How can we do that? So we can do that in various ways. So these are like green campus, the eco-friendly, the trees, the groves, and not only the brick and the mortar structures, the stone structures, but some water reservoirs, creepers, groves, etc. And basically the Panchamahabhuta, we are made up of the Panchamahabhuta, the 5 gross elements, and we should live with them. And our campus should be vibrant, at least with air, water, and earth. So we should make friends with these elements. Then beautiful campus, decorate the benches, hangout areas, and this and that. Do Shramadana to build the pathways. That can be done by the students even now. Vibrant campus with music, songs, theater, art, etc. And various days now also they celebrate various days, the fests, etc. But it should be a joyful learning. What is important is the learning should be joyful. And empathetic campus, sympathy for the fellows and friends. The give and take should be there, like Acharya Padamadatte, Padam Sabrahmacharibhyaha, Padam Shishyaha Swamedhaya, and Kalena Chaturtham Avapnoti. So experiential learning comes at the last stage when our intellect ripens. But before that, it is group discussion, the peer learning and all that. So that all should happen. And we get a perfect example in olden days of Sandipani Gurukula, where Krishna and Kuchaila studied together. Kuchaila, that is Sudama, coming from a lower economic strata, and Krishna from an affluent family, so how they studied together and how they maintained. I mean, for Sakhya Bhava, this is the best example, Krishna Sudama Sakhya. With that, now we come to the second point, the multidisciplinarity. And it always has been emphasized that the future belongs to multidisciplinary mind and not to the unitary or unidimensional branch of learning. So science and humanity, humanity and spirituality should join hands. Science and spirituality should join hands. That is verily the vision of Chinmay International Foundation as well as Chinmay Vishwavidyapeeth, that the East meeting the West and the past meeting the present, So this and the tradition meeting the technology, and Pandit wedded with public. So ancient Indian temples, we have the seeds of learning science and spirituality together. We'll see Konark Temple. And multidisciplinarity, Bhartrihari in his Vakyapadeya, a very profound text on grammar, he states, Pradnya Vivekam Labhate Bhinnai Ragama Darshanaihi Kiyadva Shakyamunnetum Swatarkam Anudhavataha. If you stick to your own vichara, methodology, your own thought of, thought process, Kiyad shakyam unnetum. What height you can reach? I mean, you can't reach that height which you can reach when you listen and when you interact and when you have discussions with bhinnaihi agama darshanaihi. So when the bhinna agama darshanas, various branches of learning, you interact with them, you take inputs from them, and then really your intellect attains that viveka. Viveka, the good and bad, the discriminative factor, that discrimination, the distinction capacity, that vyavasayatmika buddhihi ekeha kurunandana, that vyavasaya, that analysis can come to you, prajna vivekam labhate, only when bhinnaihi agama darshanaihi. And therefore multidisciplinary employed was implemented in the ancient system, and we are stressing the same now after so many hundreds of years again. So for example, now this is the Konark Sun Temple. So how this IKS can brought in IKS can be implemented in research, and how it can be implemented now in our education system. So this was prepared for our IKS courses in CVV. Venkatragavan may remember, right? So 13th century Konark Sun Temple, and built using black granite, took 12 years to build it. And the sun idol there is no sun idol now, was suspended in the air, and magnets were used in the construction to attract that sun idol. It was not sthapita on a pedestal. And that you can tell the time of by the rays of the sun falling on the wheels. There are 12 wheels to the temples, and these are the sources for that. And what all disciplines were taken into consideration: astronomy, planetary movements, Earth's trajectory was main thing. Then Shilpa Shastra, obviously, for building, constructing a temple, intricacies of carving, strength of material, Sthapatya Vidya, especially temple architecture, then engineering, actual construction, of a building technology in general, so Vastu Shastra in particular, then magnetism, force of attraction, and all these different branches of learning were used: architecture, engineering, then dharma, the rituals which were held there, the supply chain management for building such a temple for 12 long years. How the human management, the crisis management, the risk management, the logistics, the lodging and boarding of the workers, recreation for them, so many factors. It is not only engineering, it is humanities, it is social science, it is political science, it is economics, and so many other things embedded in one construction of a building which has survived the onslaughts of time. Similarly, now you look at, being a Sanskrit teacher, I have very close association with Amarakosha, a good lexicon, for learning the synonyms of Sanskrit. Now, while learning the synonyms of Sanskrit, how science also comes automatically. Vrikshayurveda, for example, and Amarakosha both have some commonalities. One is a literature grantha, the other is a scientific grantha, Vrikshayurveda, botanical grantha. But how literature is wedded with poetry, you see, and you automatically know what are the 4 kinds of plants when you know the synonyms for vriksha. Like Vriksha, Vanaspati, Virudha, Oshadi, these are the different names for trees and creepers, and there is a demarcation of the demarcation between them, that Vanaspati are the large trees, but Vina Pushpam Phalita Vriksha, like jackfruit. There are no pushpas seen, only fruits are seen, jackfruits. Then Vriksha are the large trees which are Falaihi Pushpaihi Sahita. There are flowering trees as well as the fruits are also there. And Viruddham Rohanti iti Viruddh. That which grows, sometimes the creepers, By the gravitation force, the creepers have to fall down. But when they take help of a giant tree, they grow up, up, up. Otherwise, some creepers who are just, creeping on the soil. So these are the herbs and the creepers. And then Oshadi are Falapakanta Sasya. Once they gave fruits like the grains, here you have the image for that. All these grains, the rice, wheat, barley, jowar, etc. And the medicinal plants. Once they give the corns, then they are cut. So Falapakanta Sasya. So much of knowledge is embedded in just a poetical form. Similarly, scientific truths about the plants, until 20th century, when Jagdish Chandra Bose found out that the plants also can breathe and they are sentient. But we have in the Mahabharata Shanti Parva, Sukha Dukkha Yoshcha Grahanat, Chinnasya Cha Virohanat, Jivam Pashyami Vrikshanam, Achaitanyam Naiva Vidyate. They are not achetana, they are sentient. They are as pulsating as us, as human beings. They are as vibrant as us. They are spandamana. Similarly, why a tree is called padapa? Padapa is one of the synonyms for a tree. Padaihi pibati ti padapaha. The padas are the roots. And see, we have an example here. Vaktrenotpalanalena. So this talks about the capillary action. The roots take water and through capillary action, they reach it to the every nook and corner, to the tip of the tree, to the last leaf on the highest branch of the tree. So this is the capillary action and a synonym, padapa, very good synonym. So that was the second point. The third and the fourth, now 2 points are remaining. Rigor. Rigor should be there. It doesn't come very easy. Nothing comes very easy. And therefore, the rigorous process, it is not that what you listen from your apta, from your guru, you just believe in it. Pratyakshanumanabhyam pramanaye. Whatever you listen. And therefore, there is after Shravana, there is Manana. Manana is yukti yuktam manana. Whether it, you test it on the touchstone of logic, on rational thinking, and then you yourself decide and validate. Validate whether it is true or not just, blind faith in anybody. And we have examples for this. Ramanuja, for example, he disagreed with his teacher and he gave a different interpretation of Tasya Kapyase Vakshini from the Chandogya. I'm not going into detail, but there was this, that whatever the guru says, you just have a blind faith in that. No, not that sort. Every student can think, can logically deliberate on it and come out, can have disputes, And then we have stories. Even Shankaracharya disagreed with the traditional acharyas while interpreting the Anandamayadhikarana. So there are so many examples of this sort. So basic thing for research, you have to be very logical and from libraries to laboratories and from theory to practice, that is what the journey is. And we have a very good example of Shvetaketu. When he comes home after learning in Gurukula for 12 long years, he is, like a puffed up youth. Oh, I know everything now. And when he comes home, his father Aruna sees that, oh, he has got Garva, that he knows everything. And then he asks him, Eka Vijnanena Sarva Vijnanam, a very famous story in the Upanishad. And that is done with experiment. And he gives him, a seed and then asks him to break it. He breaks it. Each part again try to break it, again try to break it to a certain point. When you can't break it further, it becomes indivisible. And that is the Brahma. You don't see that, but it is there. And through that, a whole banyan tree is born, from that. It is produced from that. Another example is that crystal of salt. For the uniformity of Brahman, he gives him the crystal of salt and asks him to test it from up, from the bottom, from the side, from the middle, from left side, from right side. Everywhere it tests the same, the saline test. That is how Brahman is. the same uniform. And now again in this rigor, there is, our training was diversity oriented. It was not, like a uniform training or uniform education for diverse minded people. All people, all students don't have the same sort of IQ or EQ. You can't cater to them in the same manner. For example, Satyakama Jabala, when he went to Gautama Haridrumata, he gave him 100 cows and told him, when these cows, the number becomes 1,000, you come back to me. That was an experiential learning for Satyakama Jabala. He didn't make him sit and attend his classes, Tattvamasi and this and that, I mean, perhaps he needed that type of education. Go in the open and learn for yourself. Swadhyaya na pramaditavyam. So, I mean, examples could be multiplied like this. And teacher training, that is also a very highlighted point in NEP, and how teachers were, the future teachers were trained by the Gurukula. There are some students, disciples called Ante Vasinaha. They stay with the Gurus till his demise, and then they become the Guru and run that Gurukula. In fact, Satyakama Jabala is an Ante Vasin, and he ran the Gurukula of Haridrumata when he became Acharya. So there are examples like this, so teachers training, and this training can happen not only through lectures, but through multiple other ways. So develop, collaborate, and infuse students in different ways. It is always, nowadays it is stated that in a jungle, there are different types of animals and they are put to a test. There comes an elephant, there comes a monkey, there comes a deer, and there comes a fish also. And the examination is what? Climbing a tree. Can you have the same sort of examination for different types of animals? You can't. So for different types of students, you should not have different type of examination. And that's why there are exit points now given in the education policy. And for learner side also, there much rests on the learner also. It is not, I have been talking from the imparter's side, from the teacher's side, but much depends on the learner's side. So there are 7 qualities of a learner given in the Kautilya's Arthashastra. They are called Pradnya Gunaha for the king, but they are not only for the king, they are for all of us. Shushrusha, basically the desire to learn, desire to hear somebody. No, I don't want to. If there is no desire, then the Shravana cannot happen. So first, the desire to learn, Shrotum Ichha, Shushrusha, then comes Shravana, listening, not just hearing and then, letting it away, letting it go by the second earlobe, entering from here and then letting it go. But listening, not just hearing, then accepting, Grahana. After accepting, retaining it, Dharana. After dharana, understand with reflection, vijnana, vishishta jnana, or upayojita jnana, experimental knowledge, and then uha poha, raise questions, doubts, and then try to resolve those, and then abhinivesha, intentness to truth and knowledge, tattva abhinivesha. So these are the Pradnya Guna. I feel these are not only meant for the kings. These are the qualities for every student. And we should hamper upon that. We should hanker on that. And then we have, the Antahkarana Chatushtaya, how rigorously we can train our Antahkarana, which have different portfolios. Though they are Antahkarana, the inner instruments, inner organs, they have different portfolios. For example, mana is samshayatmaka, sankalpa vikalpatmakam hi manaha. So thinking, imaginating, that is in the purview of manas. Buddhi is quite different. It is nishchayatmika, and analytical ability is buddhi. Then anusandhanatmakam chittam, cognizing capacity, that is chitta, and ahankara is abhimanatmaka. So abhimanatmaka, that sense of belongingness has to come for every teacher, for every student. This institution is mine. I belong to this and I owe it something. So I am indebted to this. So that sense of belongingness, that sense of possession and ownership, that makes one accountable and responsible. And with all these four together, we have avadhana, the shatavadhana or ashtavadhana, multitasking art, So this is creativity needs all these things. The mind, the idea, the vision, and innovation should be there. So this is very unique to our Indian culture. And now I come to the fourth point. If you are looking at the time, I'll finish in 5-7 minutes now. So the fourth point is the innovation. Innovation could be in pedagogy, in the teaching, learning teaching devices or means. Revitalization, what is the rationale behind that is revitalization of cognitions, beliefs and practices, re-socialization through festivals. I give an example. Now, innovation, Deepavali, suppose. Now, Deepavali is a festival. We celebrate Deepavali in, at least for a day. In Kerala, they celebrate only for a day. In Maharashtra and North, they celebrate for 4, 5 days, 6 days. So, Naraka Chaturdashi, for example, when Krishna, with help of Satyabhama, killed Narakasura. Now, what all social points could be gathered from this? This could be innovative while describing a festival to our students, how we can make it very interesting and innovative. This will involve the feminism, the gender studies, the social aspect, the sociological aspect, so many other things. Satyabhama herself is a great warrior and a charioteer, and she helped Krishna conquer Narakasura. Not only that, she also requested him to accept the captive ladies because there was no future for them once they were in the Karagriha of Narakasura. So once they are stamped as, oh, they have been abducted, kidnapped by the Asura, then they had no future. Even now, we see this, the women have little or no social status. Take example of Ahalya. And therefore, Rama had to go in the ashrama and he had to mainstream her so that the people could accept her later on. This also gives you the woman power, auspicious celebration of life. This also gives you the gender studies and social studies and so many things. So there are different ways, the stories, the songs, pictures, experiments, assignments, etc., in innovative pedagogy. One such, two such pedagogies I will talk of and then I'll stop. So this is incredible Indian cultural diversity has got new ideas and practices. For example, Katapayadi, if you have heard of, an alpha syllabic numeral system for math, music and phonetics. This is used in Prasodi, Chanda Shastra as well. And the oldest available evidence of the use of Katapayadi system is from Grahacharana Nibandhana by Haridatta in 683 CE. And it has been used in the Laghu Bhaskariya Vivarana written by Shankara Narayana in 869 CE. So this is the source for that also. I have given the sources. Now this is the Katapayadi system. All the Vyanjanas, the swaras don't have any value. All the Vyanjanas have values. And the ka, ta, pa, ya, these are the Katapayadi. Why? Because ka varga, ta varga, pa varga, and ya. These are placed on number 1. 1 to 0, you keep on the horizontal numbers and go on putting the Vyanjanas one after the other. Ka, kha, ga, gha. Nga, cha, cha, ja, jha, ya, ta, tha, da, dha, na, ta, tha, da, da, na, pa, pha, ba, bha, ma, and then yara, lava, sha, sha, sa, ha. Katapayadi system. And how you can interpret that, for example, Rama, if you want to write, there are no akara, ikara, ukara counted. Only the Vyanjana is counted. Only not the Barakhadi of that is counted. So Rama, though it is akara, it will have the value of ra. And Ra is placed in number 2 here. So Ra has the value of 2, right? And Ma has the value of 5 here. But because in Sanskrit we write I mean, in every other maths also, we write first the unit and the tens. I mean, at least we count from right to left. Ankanam vamato gatihi, and therefore the number 25 would be written as 52. Similarly, now another example, for example, Shankara, Shakara is on 5 here, Shakara is on 5. Then Sham Anuswara is not counted. Then you get the Ka is number 1. Then Ra is number 2. It is 5 and 2, but it is written as 2, 2 and 5 as Ankanam Vamato Gatihi. Another example I would like to state is, how through IKS we can train students to think differently or make it more interesting. The permutation combination theory, for example, Shri Vishnu, Mahavishnu holds 4 things in his 4 hands. Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma. So how many different rupas or vibhutis or vigrahas could be made of this Vishnu? This is a simple thing of permutation combination theory, and you multiply all the factorials 4 into 3 into 2 into 1, making it 24. But we have this richness in our architecture, in our sculpture, the Hoysala sculpture essentially, where we have the 24 different vigrahas having 24 names from Vishnu Sahasranama. Vishnu Sahasranama counts 1,000 names of Vishnu, but 24 names are important names. And of these names, with the permutation combination of the ayudhas or the chinnas in Vishnu's hands, there are created 24 different vigrahas. And Hoysala architecture, if you know, it is rich in ornamentation. So these are the 24 names, okay? And the position of the different chinnas in the left, right, and back, right, and left, and front, right, and left hand. And accordingly, we have 24. We will see now one vigraha of Trivikrama, very beautifully decorated. See the intricacies in the ornamentation, the embellishments. Hoysala art is known for the embellishments. So Trivikrama is Gada in the left back, then Chakra in the right, Gada in the right, back right, and then Chakra in the back left, and then this Gada, Chakra, Shankha, and Padma. Padma is here in the front right, right? So this is Trivikrama. Like that, you can search on the Googleam Sharanam Braja, Google Swami, for different positions of this. So this is Trivikrama. This makes study joyful. And Ramayana Mahabharata stories to inculcate values. Ramayana being Niti Shastra, every single value you have a story. For Mahabharata is a Samaji Shastra for all social values and social ethics. We can quote from Mahabharata. The simple thing of Dharma, Dharma, Viveka, for example, discrimination between what adharma and what adharma is. We can quote from Mahabharata, Duryodhana's speech, Janami dharmam nachame pravrittihi, Janamya dharmam nachame nivrittihi. It is not that Duryodhana doesn't know what dharma means and what adharma means, but he is not inclined to follow it. So quoting such examples, we can teach the social values, social ethics. So all the do's and don'ts could be, taught through the stories from epics and Puranas. So to conclude now, I didn't discuss what are the IKS, what is the IKS. So here is a brief on what do we mean by Indian knowledge systems. The 4 Vedas, Rug, Yajus, Sama, Atharva, the Vedangas, Shiksha, Kalpa, Vyakarana, Nirukta, Chanda, Jyotisha, the Upangas, like Itihasa, Purana, Mimamsa, and Nyaya Shastra, and Upavedas, Ayurveda, Dhanurveda, Gandharva Veda, and Arthaveda. Then there are Agamas, mainly 3, the Shaivagamas 28 in number, Shaktagamas 77, and Vaishnavagamas are the highest. Then science is mainly to the physical sciences and the life sciences. This all comes in the IKS. Now, how we can make it very joyful? So I will end with this slide perhaps, yeah. So encoding and decoding has been, writing in cryptic language was the speciality of Indian ancient thinkers. All the scientists, even in the Vedas, we have cryptic writing, very enigmatic writing. And especially in the colophons of manuscripts, you have the cryptic writing when they talk about the date on which the scribe has written that manuscript, has scribed that manuscript. So following that, and this is embedded in Indian ethos, Indian culture. So with Ankanam Vamato Gatihi, in this principle in mind, and if you can know what guna means in how many gunas are there. See, I have written today is Falguna Masa, Mandavasara, that is Shanivasara, Shukla Shashti Titho. This is a Falguna Shukla Shashti, and I have named the year, I have written the year in language than in numeral, Guna Pani Khayugme. So guna are three gunas. Pani, hands, they are two, unless we are talking about the Devatas, Ashtabhuja or all. Pani means two. Then Kha is void, that is 0, and Yugma is again 2. So Ankanam Vamato Gatihi 2023. So Gunapanikha Yugme Samvatsare Prastutam Idam Vyakhyanam. So at the end, I would like to say, willingness to accept and learn the best from our past will make us better individuals. So this is what I feel was the rationale of the NEP committee behind incorporating and highlighting IKS, Indian Knowledge Systems, in the national education policy. Thank you, especially Dr. Sindhuja, for giving me this opportunity, and thanks all the organizers of CES, Center for Education and Social Studies, Bengaluru, for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving such a brief account and a good orientation to understand the spirit behind bringing IKS in higher education institution. Thank you so much, ma'am. Now, let us move on to the second speaker of the session. So, Dr. Venkata Raghavan sir, Assistant Professor, IIT Bhubaneswar. He completed his graduation in Electronic Engineering from IIT Dhanbad. After a brief stint as a software engineer at Samsung, he shifted his area to philosophy, and he later completed PG, PhD from University of Hyderabad. His primary area of research, philosophy of language. He completed his PhD thesis based on philosophical questions related to non-literal communication based on Indian philosophical and poetological works. Dr. Venkatji has been teaching courses in introductory philosophy, Indian philosophy, logic, critical thinking, Indian knowledge tradition since 2016, and his interest keen on developing new ways and of teaching philosophy to students, especially those students who have no background of philosophy. His overreaching research project is to make fruitful contribution to comparative philosophy, having more than 5 years of experience in teaching and research in higher education institution. Sir, over to you, sir, and we welcome for the session.
Yeah, thank you, madam. I thank CES for giving me this opportunity. I am hoping, or I'm assuming that I am audible and all that. We did the trial run and everything. So I will get straight into my topic, which is IKS and its useful sources for management courses. So there was already a question in the chat box, that is where can we find these resources in Ramayana and Mahabharata, etc. So that is the primary question that many of us have now. So where do we go and get all this knowledge? So people are going on telling that IKS is having this, IKS is having that, etc. But nobody is telling where we can actually find this. So it is important that we have some ready reference material or something like that from which we can go and get at least some details. So I have been asked to focus on management education, as says that one of its key areas in which it works is Bharatiya management. So it has requested me to look at where all ideas can be taken, or what are all the sources or works that we can take from IKS to include in the management courses. So broadly, these sources I have classified into 4 categories. One is the archaeological sources, including the epigraphical sources, means the excavations that have been made in Lothal. I think our Sudhakar Saab has one slide on that where he had shown the Lothal, what is it called, wharf. He had shown that. So similarly, in Kerala, in Musiris, there is an excavation. Similarly, there is Dwaraka. Then in Kaveri Pupatnam, there is a trade port that was discovered. So from these excavations, we can find out what are all the kinds of trade practices that may have existed at that particular time. Sometimes epigraphical sources are also there. Epigraphical sources means the things that are inscribed on stone and copper plates and things like that. So many times what happens is that if you visit a temple, you will find some inscriptions on the stone over there. What is who commissioned this temple, how much money was given to this temple, who all participated in this temple, etc., will be written over there. So recently, when I had been to this Lepakshi, there was a huge inscription on the stone detailing who had commissioned this and what sort of work went into this and things like that. I have a few examples to show. From that also, we can extract out what, not from all, but from that we have to make a survey and find out what are all the economic practices that existed at that particular time. The second kind of sources are the literary sources, which is what I will be focusing majorly on. That is the works that have been written in various languages, primarily Sanskrit, but also in various other languages. Sources, and some can be indirect literary sources. What I mean by that, I will tell when we come to that particular section. The third kind of sources that we can use is testimonial accounts. During the entire history of our country, various people have visited India. Hyun Sang, Marco Polo, before that Megasthenes, etc. They have all visited India, and they have given some accounts of what India was, how our society was, etc. Many of these descriptions are to do with our way of life, what kind of marriage, what was the kind of social organization, all of these things. But here and there, you will find especially some description about the business practices that existed or the management practices that existed, especially after the medieval period, where these Dutch colonizers were coming and the English colonizers were coming. They were very much interested in how we do business. So they have given a lot of testimonial accounts of how we do business. So we can abstract some business ideas or business practices from those testimonial accounts. And lastly, from the existing practices which are still going on in our country, we can abstract out indigenous Bharatiya ideas for management courses. So I will focus more on the literary sources, but just to give you an example or just to give you a demonstration of what the epigraphical sources and the other sources will look like, I will just present a brief survey of those things. So firstly, the archaeological data, it will look something like this. So see, on the left side of the screen, you can see a ship. It was from the Satavahana dynasty, belonging to the early part of the Common Era, somewhere in the 1st century. It was the coin of Vasishtaputra Pulwami, who was the son of Gautami Putra Shatakarni. So these the coins of that particular age indicate that they had very good shipping trade with various parts of the world. Similarly, you have this gold coin, which was discovered in Pudukottai in Tamil Nadu. It is Augustus Fort, it is called Pudukottai Fort, it is called. In that you have the gold coin with the emblem of Augustus, who was the first king of the Roman Empire during the little before the Common Era started. And then way far back, even in the Indus Saraswati civilization, also you have evidence of some shipping practices that were there. So from this, we can extract out that this practice of trade, management, etc., was there in this part of the world from quite far back out in the past. So wherever there is trade, there is bound to be management. There is bound to be some business ideas or some economic ideas, etc. It is important for us to understand that this is not new for us. See, that is one of the important things that all of us must understand. This management science, we are all seeing all of this. Oh, science is Western. Science has come to us from Europe. We don't know science. So this is the kind of lack of confidence that we had for some time. But now we have to understand that no, these are not foreign practices. We have been doing this for a long time. Okay, it's just that we don't have documented data and things like that, like how we are having today. But these practices have been existing in our society for a very long time. If we get back that confidence, we will develop indigenous Bharatiya management principles. That is all that is required. So the first step in developing Bharatiya management principles is to have the confidence that we used to be business people before. Long before we used to be business people. So these archaeological sources help us in getting that confidence. Though they will not help us in getting theories and textbooks, etc., at least they will help us in the confidence that we can develop Bharatiya management principles, because these people were doing business with Bharatiya management principle, whatever principles they were. Okay, so that is the reason these archaeological sources become important. Here is another epigraphical source. This is the famous Girnar edit of Ashoka. The map on the right side shows the various places in which Ashoka had put the various rock edicts and pillar edicts, etc., and minor cave inscriptions and all those places. And in one of the place, look at what he's saying. Very interesting thing that he's saying. There are some topics which have been repeated over and over again, owing to their sweetness, so that people may act accordingly. Okay, so why I have picked this statement is that all the companies today have something called as vision and mission. Yes, you all agree? Every company will say mission of our company is so and so, vision of our company is so and so, etc. But then they will write that mission or vision in some separate, in one document somewhere. They will write it and they will put it in one website somewhere. It will be there. No employee will know what that vision is. No employee will know what that mission is. They will simply come to the company, come and work and go. Okay, but some companies are very particular. Their vision, as soon as you come into the office, their vision will be pasted, so that all the employees know what it is that they are working for. So it will be clear to them in the cafeteria, let us say, or in some common room or somewhere like that, the vision and the mission and what are the values that they hold, etc., company values. It will be very prominently displayed in various parts of the company. In their what we can say, if they give a diary, let us say, so many companies give all these diaries and pens and all these things they give. So in that also it will be mentioned what are the values of the company, what are the mission, what is the vision of the company, etc. It will be very prominently displayed, which is what Ashoka was trying to do. He was trying to put through his vision and mission so that it is accessible to all the people in his kingdom. So that is why the pillar edicts were so commonly, some topics were put in several places so that people can know what the vision of our king is, what is the mission of our king, etc. So I have taken this particular example to show what sort of, how we can adapt this in our business practices. Prominently display our mission, prominently display our vision so that people don't forget what it is and start acting based upon their own agenda. Okay, sometimes so that even management also that does not forget. So for that also it is important to have these edits everywhere. So these are some of the examples of the archaeological sources from which we can extract some business ideas or business inspirations or adapt it into our business practices. So as I said, I am this is not my area. I am just to give you an example of what it will look like. I am showing. Those of you who are more interested in it, straightforward sources are available. A report of epigraphy in India, etc. Such books are available on archive.org. It will give a whole list of the epigraphical evidences that were discovered all across the country. You can pick and choose which are relevant to business, what from where we can get some ideas for business management, etc. You can pick from that. There's a separate book available for Ashoka because Ashoka edits are very, very famous. So they are available. I think DC Sarkar, I have given the reference over there. This book is available on archive itself, archive.org. So you can see, compare all the edits content and see which are all useful for the business sciences. You can see that. Then coming to testimonial accounts, these are very, very interesting about the kind of business practices that existed. Here is one quotation. I have picked some quotations just to show you how it will be. One from Abe Kare. Please excuse if I don't know to pronounce the names properly. So they are talking about Tamil Nadu or in Madras at that time, what kind of practices existed. Gavariyas as well as the Chettis have an inveterate habit that if one of them is offended or wronged, all the others shut their shops and abandon all their work and business. So as you can see what sort of a community spirit existed at that time. If you cheat one business person in the Chetty community, Chettiar, what we call today Chettiar community, or in the Gavariya community, all shopkeepers will shut down their business. So we are getting this kind of information from the testimonial sources. So the practice of forming a union or protesting together, etc., seems to have been existing in our early colonial period. Also, it seems to have been existing. Similarly, Marco Polo, what he is telling, as soon as the son attains the age of 13, they set him to liberty with no longer suffer him. They no longer suffer him to be an inmate of his father's house. Give him to the amount in their money of 20 to 24 groats. So groats is a kind of grain. So how much ever money is worth in that 20 to 24 groats, that much money they give him and send him out of the house. Others also have reported that boys as young as 13, 14 used to participate in the business dealings of their family. So this brings us to a very important observation about the business management. It was not a Shastra like Vyakarana or Nyaya, Mimamsa, etc. It was not a separate Shastra like that. What Madam was referring to as experiential learning, mostly it was done in that way. People thought that this business studies, what is there for me to write books about it? You go into the world outside and you learn it. That's all. That is what business studies is. Even today, we have this debate between street smart and book smart, isn't it? So there are some managers who have studied, who have written CAT exam, they have done BBA, MBA, they have done, and they have become managers. And then there are other people who have started from clerk, then they became officer, then they became manager, and finally they came to the management level. So there is a constant tussle between this kind of ladder and this kind of ladder. They know terminology and all those things. These people may not be familiar with terminology, but they know they have a very good business acumen. So from the evidence of Marco Polo, we are taught that there was no business studies. This 13-year-old fellow does not have to go and do BBA course and then only come and join the business. They just go outside, start participating in the family business, and they just learn the tricks and trade of the trade. And then there is another source which says that both those who sift the indigo and the writers of the submerchants of the company who watch them sifting have to drink milk every hour, this being a preservative against the subtlety of indigo. So the indigo powder is very, very fine. It used to enter the nose and the mouth, etc. And as a safety measure, they used to drink milk every day. So this is an evidence that the corporate took care of the health of the employees also was taken into consideration. It was not this blind simply go on doing go on getting profit, etc. No, it also took care of the health of the employees. Then Robert on they are saying about India that they are the acutest buyers and sellers in the world. So see, when we see testimonial accounts like this, we get confidence that we were good at business. Okay, so he's talking about Indians and saying that they are the acutest buyers and sellers in the world and preserve through all their bargains a degree of calmness which baffles all arts that can be opposed against it. So even though we go on bargaining, we maintain a degree of calmness. So then the Sthita Prajna is not just Arjuna, but the businessman, the Vanija also is a very, very calm person. So they will go on bargaining with you the entire day, no problem, but they will maintain a sense of calmness. So these are some of the quotations. Some others I have taken. So the Baniyas never leave their house till they have washed and eaten. So this is a very good business practice. You see that this is health is you have to take care, so you have to take bath and then eat and then leave. It is very, very pleasant to see young children of these merchants and of other people of the country from the age of 10 years up to the age of 15 or 16 assemble every morning under a tree which is in the town square. So the children start to participate in the business of the family from a very young age. So how do they learn business practices? By doing. They don't go and sit in one BBA class or MBA class or Shastra class, etc. and they do. Which brings us to a very important observation about the very nature of knowledge in Indian knowledge traditions, that it was seen as a means to an end. Okay, it was not that everyone has to get a degree, so we will get a degree. No, education is required for doing some occupation. How much ever education is required, that is sufficient. So if this fellow is going to go in the trade of the family, then let him just join the trade. There is no need for that fellow to go and sit in a Vyakarana class. There is no need for that fellow to go and sit in the Nyaya class, etc. Because anyway, in the end, they are going to come to the family business. Okay, so they started the education right from the before, rather than making them force them to become graduates or something like that of that particular. Then there is another quotation over here. In those simple seminaries, which is the schools, the gentle and tractable sons of the Hindus are not only prepared for business, but instructed in the duties of life. So this shows the amalgamation of business as well as values. A profound veneration for the object or objects of religious worship, a reverence for their parents, respect for their seniors, justice and humanity towards all, but a particular affection for those of their own caste. Okay, so they are taught not just how to do business, but they are also taught how certain values. They are also taught religion. They are also taught to respect the seniors, etc. So what Madam was telling about multidisciplinarity or a holistic education, they were provided the holistic education in those seminaries which were conducted in the temples, etc. And here's another quotation which I found a little interesting about some Gujarati businesswoman. The Rahit Bukte proved herself during our conversation to be a good businesswoman, quite awe on the subject of grain, plough, mango tree, etc., and from which her revenue is derived. Large ledgers written in Gujarati character were produced, and the particular pages readily referred to in explanation of the subject. So this gives us the very valuable information that there was some sort of a record keeping in our tradition. And the records were kept in the local language. So see, now if you have to keep records, you have to know this tally or some whatever software, whatever it is, the Excel sheet or whatever it is, we have to know all those things. But here they are maintaining accounts, but they are maintaining in their local language, which is far more, we are acquainted with it. And they were maintaining those records, right? So that is another important thing that we learn from these testimonial accounts. So it is a very quick work that you can do by just going over these testimonial accounts. 1 month time, you can have just 2 or 3 interns sit over all these testimonial accounts and pick out whatever is required for business management, right? So there is a 4-volume work by Meenakshi Jain and Sandhya Jain, the India that they saw. So in that work, all these testimonial accounts are mentioned. Not all of them are relevant to management. I have taken some which I found they were relevant to management and business, trade, etc. So you can just take 2-3 such people, or you yourself can sit for just a weekend whenever you are free. Over 4 or 5 weekends, you can just search through the book and find out whatever references are needed, or whatever your area of interest is. Let us say if your area of interest is life skills and values, you can see what are all the life skills and values that were practiced by the Indian people at that time. If your interest is some architecture or something like that, you can see what are all the various references to architecture in that particular time. So this is a exhaustive work that I know. Other works also may be there, but given that it's a 4-volume work, I am assuming that it is far more exhaustive than other works. So this is about the testimonial accounts. Then coming to the business practices that continue to exist in our country. On the left side, you can see one table which represents how the hundi system was used as a sort of collateral. So you used to deposit the hundi at one place and then you could withdraw at another place. Very much like a promissory note that that was practiced in Europe by the Templar Knights, how they used to do. So what are all the various kinds of hundis that were used? This I have taken from very basic class 11th NCERT textbook on business studies. There may be far more complicated or nuanced accounts may be there. I don't know, but I've just taken it from our NCERT textbook. Then we of course know our Dabbawalas from Mumbai. how very basic education that they have, they are able to make a Six Sigma company with 1 in a 1 billion mistake or something like that. They are able to make. Of course, the pandemic has totally disrupted their work, but they were able to build a very strong business with very indigenous methods that they are still doing. And then on the other side, on the left side top, can somebody guess in the chat? You can tell me what do you think that is on the left, on the right side top. What are they doing? Can somebody guess? I hope you can type or something like that. Can you guess
Yeah,
what they're doing?
yes, they can.
Can you guess what they're doing on the top right corner? They're all doing something, no?
Charulata ji showing jewelry making.
Yeah, jewelry making. I am not able to see. Okay, but yeah, okay, they are jewelry. So this is the Gujarati diamond cutting industry in Gujarat. So now all the diamond cutting, almost all the operations have shifted to Gujarat from Antwerp and some other places in the world. They have all shifted to Gujarat now. Most of the diamond cutting of the world, a most significant part of the diamond cutting of the world happens in Gujarat. And once again, these are like the Dabbawalas of our country, of Mumbai. They do have very minimal education, but they are all part of the same community. They have all their, the shared knowledge, whatever it is that they have. And that much trust is there between them that they exchange diamonds from one company to another company, even without any promissory notes or anything like that. So that much of trust is there in the company because it is a community driven activity. Okay, so by examining the internal workings of this diamond cutting industry, we can abstract out Bharatiya management principles. And in the bottom, as somebody has replied in the comments, they are negotiating. So this is from Tamil Nadu. It is the local practice of negotiating the prices of the cattle. So there is a person called the Mattu Taragar. He is called the broker, the cattle broker. So the cattle broker goes and brokers some money, how much the cattle to be sold for, how much money, etc. And they do it in secret like this. You are in a market, but you have to bargain, right? But still you have to not let other people know how much you are bargaining for. So what is a simple practice? Put one towel over it and go on bargaining. So they will write in the with their hand, they will write something, and that person will yes, okay, no, like that they will say. So the outside person can hear only that yes, no, no, yes, but inside lot of dealings are going on. So from these few practices which are still alive today, we can abstract out management practices. Even if you cannot abstract out management practices, at least you can mention in your textbooks or in your classes saying that these are management principles that are existing. These are the negotiation principles that are existing or practices that are existing, so that people will know that not every business is conducted in some foreign Harvard Business School way or some other whatever IIM way or something like that, that our indigenous communities have their own business practices. So these are the various other sources that I had showed, archaeological sources, testimonial sources, as well as the indigenous practices that exist among us. But my focus, as I said, it is on the literary sources. And I have classified them into two kinds, direct and indirect. So the direct literary sources are those kinds of sources in which the work is directly written, is specifically written for trade and public administration. Those kinds of works I am calling as direct sources. And those which are written for some other purpose but can be used for management sciences, I am calling as indirect sources. So I hope this distinction is clear. If a work has been particularly written for trade or public administration, I am calling those works as direct sources. Those which have been written for some other purpose, but we can use it in the management sciences, I am calling as indirect sources. So what are the direct sources? So Arthashastra, of course, is very popular. Many English translations are also available. Shama Shastri has English translation. Patrick Oliville has English translation. Kangle has English translation. So many are available in the market. You can get any of them. Then Niti Shastra works are also available. They have many policies which you can use for your HR in the HR it can be very much used. So Kamandaka Niti Shara, etc. Somadeva Suri's works, etc. You can use Shukraniti. You can use for developing a culture, a business culture or values in your company. They may not be helpful in capturing the market or whatever it is, something like that, but they will definitely be useful for developing the culture of a country. Okay, culture of your company, sorry. And then of course Dharma Shastra. Not all sections of Dharma Shastra will be useful. Every Dharma Shastra generally has 3 sections, though they will not be marked like that, but logically they will have 3 sections: Achara, Vyavahara, and Prayaschitta. So Achara section deals with the various do's and don'ts of the student life or the householder's life also. What are all the day-to-day do's and don'ts, what they are, mainly related to their domestic practices or their school practices, etc. That is what Achara section deals with. Vyavahara deals with the public. What are all the public transactions that you have with the world? It may have a chapter on the king also. What are the duties of the king? And also it has so many other topics related to the public negotiations, public transactions. This part will be most useful. Prayaschitta, of course, is, as the word says, it is Prayaschitta. What are all the kind of penances that you can do if you have made a mistake? That may not be of much importance, but very important section that business management can use is the Vyavahara section of the Dharma Shastra. So Dharma Shastra literature is classified into several types: Sutra literature, Smriti literature, and Nibandha literature. You can take any of these literatures. Reliable translations are available for the Sutra literature or the 4 Dharma Sutras. This translation is available on archive itself by Patrick Olivelle. You can take it. Manusmriti, of course, so many translations are available. It's a very famous or rather infamous, whatever you want to say, book. Yajnavalkya Smriti also, English translation is available. As you can see, it is translated by M.N. Datta. So I have a copy of that. So it is English translation is available. You can buy that also. So I will just take a few examples to show you what kind of material is available in this. So these are all the various topics in the Vyavahara section of Yajnavalkya Smriti. I have not taken Chanakya's Arthashastra because so much has been said about it. Everybody knows that the Arthashastra of Chanakya is very famous. So I am taking a little lesser known work, which is Yajnavalkya Smriti. So these are all the various topics that are there in the Vyavahara section. The general rules, exceptional rules, loans. So somebody was working with loans and things like that. So they can see what are all the kinds of things that are written over there. Then what kind of documents you must write, how you should divide property, what are all the various rules for returning a particular item after you have bought it. So nowadays we have 1 day delivery and then you can return up to 10 days return, something like that and all other. So what are all the kinds of return practices that used to exist over there? Then there is a separate chapter, small chapter on joint stock companies. So that is the translation that they have used. So if several traders come together to form a sort of cooperative, then what sort of a division of profit and loss must exist in those kinds. So in that way, there are some chapters devoted to that. So I'm just presenting a few excerpts from that chapter just to tell you what kind of text or what kind of information you can expect from the Dharma Shastra. 1 second. The authors of Arthashastra translations are Kangle. Kangle is one. The first person to discover was Shyama Shastri. So he has also translated it. It is available. Then you have the translation by Kangle, R.P. Kangle. And recently you have a translation by Patrick Olivelle. So these are the 3 things that I know. One more is there from Penguin. I'm not able to remember that. But yeah, these 3 are very famous. Shyama Shastri, Kangle, and Patrick Olivelle. These are the 3. Okay, so look at this. For example, when an article is spoiled, the artisan is bound to pay without any doubt the amount of compensation determined by the experts, considering the time, place, and enjoyment and intrinsic value of the article. So this is a policy on how the article must be compensated for, what sort of compensation must be there. Look at the second one. He who, having received the value of a commodity, does not make it over to the buyer, shall be called upon to pay the value with profit or interest. If the purchaser comes from another country, the seller shall be made to pay to the buyer the profit that might have been made in in that particular country. So as you can see, they are made to follow the laws of that particular land. So just because you are an Indian trader doesn't mean that the Indian laws will apply to you. If your buyer is from the foreign country, then the foreign laws will apply to you. So is this a good practice? Is it what the current practice is, etc.? You can debate about this in your class. Okay. So another one is a number of traders carrying on trade for making profit shall share the profit and loss according to their respective shares or according to the compact or the contract which has been made by them. Okay. And another important observation is the king on such cooperative enterprises, the king shall levy 12th part of the profit as his royalty, because it is he who rules the market as the appraiser of commodities. So nowadays, what is the general consensus? Government should not interfere in business. Private business, government should not interfere, or something like that may be the case. Oh, government is taxing us too much, etc. But as you can see over here, there is an underlying recognition that the king is the authority of the market. The king rules the market as the appraiser of commodities. So finally, the king has to get a share of the profit. So even when it is a cooperative enterprise, it's a private enterprise which has been formed by several people coming together, and they are sharing the profit and loss, the king must get the share. So, or the government must get the share. So these are some of the things that you can look at the work and abstract it. So see, my area is philosophy. Little bit familiarity I have with the Sanskrit language, etc. But I don't know business theories. So those who know business theory, those who know management principles, etc., if they read this work, even if they read translation, they will be able to make out more than what I am able to make out. Okay, so I am giving you this material and these references so that you can just read from your perspective, from the management perspective, and get more out of this book. We can get only limited information from this book. Okay, here is another some more selections. A king should try to acquire by fair means objects not acquired, and keep carefully the acquired ones, multiply the protected ones according to the laws of political economy, and distribute the surplus wealth amongst the worthy persons. So the first part of the sentence says that a king should acquire more wealth. So there may be a popular misconception that Indian people are very spiritual. They automatically are very spiritual and sannyasi oriented, satsang, etc. But you see, there is a direct recommendation over here that you must acquire more wealth. Professor Gauri Maulikar also was telling that don't be alpa, you aim for more. But then look at the last sentence: distribute the surplus wealth. Okay, so today we have to give corporate social responsibility as a separate topic for the business enterprise so that they can do something for the society. But look at this niti over here. It is embedded in the business practice itself, in the achara or in the vyavahara of the king. It is embedded that though they make a lot of wealth, they should distribute wealth also. So the separate policy for corporate social responsibility is not recommended over here. It is part of your value system that whatever surplus you have, you distribute it among the worthy people. That is another very interesting, somewhat controversial also that I can say. But yeah, that is a recommendation. So I will move forward like that. Some recommendations are there. I will move forward so that we have some more time for questions and things like that. So that much about the direct works. Now let us see the indirect works. So the indirect works, as I said, was those works which have been written for some other purpose, but you can use the management science. You can use them in the management sciences. How you can use them? You can abstract the concepts and theories from them, or you can use them as case studies, or you can use them for methodological purposes, like to improve your thinking, etc. You can use those sciences. For each, I don't have examples, but largely these are the various indirect sources that you can use. The Upanishad you can use, of course. The Ramayana and Mahabharata, of course, this is the encyclopedia of our culture. Whatever you want, you will find in this Ramayana and Mahabharata, particularly the Gita. Somebody was asking some sources, particular chapters. For example, if you want some specific topics in what is this called, public administration, you can look at the 100th chapter of Ayodhya Kanda, which is called Kachit Sarga. So 100th chapter of Ayodhya Kanda. So the second Kanda, 100th chapter, it is called Kachit Sarga. You can see what sort of public administration practices existed. In the Mahabharata, you can refer to the Shanti Parva as well as the Anushasana Parva for various Niti and Dharma topics. If you buy M.N. Dutt's translation, it will verse to verse translation will be there. And from the contents, you can easily recognize which chapter is relevant to you. You can go to that particular chapter. The Purana also, in some places, it is a huge corpus. We have to abstract out. You have to sift out the material from that. The Jataka tales, the previous birth stories of Buddha, you can take value lessons from that also. Panchatantra and Hitopadesha, a former colleague of mine used to teach a course on this business practices from Panchatantra. Then Nyaya, Mimamsa, Darshana, you can take some methodological principles you can take. So the Nyaya is the Indian tradition of logic. So by teaching this to your students, you can improve their logical skills. So this is the indigenous, some aspects at least, you can use them and improve their reasoning skills. From Ayurveda texts also, you can abstract out, particularly Charaka Samhita, Sushruta Samhita and Vagbhatta, how the medical management used to be there. You can take some, those who are particularly interested in that hospital management, etc. They can read those works. Brihat Samhita is, of course, a encyclopedia of our one of our ancient India. So you can see not all chapters will be relevant in that. 1 or 2 chapters will be relevant. You can take from that some values as well as some practices. So there are some encyclopedias like Manasollasa or Yukti Kalpataru, something like that. Some encyclopedias are there. From that also we can abstract out some lessons for the management sciences. And of course, there are Subhachitas, Sanskrit Subhachitas. That is a very favorite thing for our Gauri madam. From that also you can extract out some value lessons for fit for business. And Tirukkural, of course, the Tamil people will be very familiar with this Tirukkural. I have taken a few examples from Tirukkural. I will show you. So this is an example of what kind of conceptual things you can take from IKS. I will not spend much time on it because Sudhakar Saab will be talking more about it. So on the left side, you have this Maslow's need hierarchy principle. On the other side, you have the Purushartha model that is there in the Mahabharata. It is described Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. So how an employee can be motivated by Artha, how they can be motivated by Kama, how they can be motivated by Dharma, and how they can be motivated by Moksha. So you can build various leadership models or motivation models based on the Purushartha system. Similarly, here is a very somewhat controversial example. I am taking maybe. So on the left side, you can see this. I have taken from the Ministry of Women and Child Development. It is the manual for prevention of sexual harassment at workplace. So one of the important thing that the manual says is that impact and not intent is what matters. So it is stressing on the impact that it has on the woman rather than the intent of the so-called harasser. But you see the corresponding episode that is happening in Sundarakanda when Hanuman is going and searching for Sita. He goes into the Antapura of Ravana and he sees so many women who are sleeping, and because they are sleeping, their cloth is not proper or something like that. So then Hanuman becomes very scared. So as you can see over here, I have put the text also. The great monkey was very much worried as he thought that he has transgressed the moral code by watching women. So because he was looking at women and in their inner chambers, he felt that his brahmacharya vow had been broken. But then he himself thought about it and said that I did see the wives of other, but not with a sensual mind. I have only seen them, but not with a foul intention. Now see now how in the Ramayana, how Hanuman is correcting himself by saying that, yes, I have seen them, but my intention is not impure. My intention is to search for Sita. That is why I have come here. So my intention is not impure. So I am not wrong. Like that, Hanuman is convincing himself. But on the contrary, what we are having is a little different. Not little different, very different. That it is the intent doesn't matter that much. It is the impact that matters a lot. So imagine what will happen to my next day morning if these ladies get up and know that Hanuman has come and seen us when we were sleeping. You can imagine the impact that it will have on them. But Hanuman is convinced that what he has done is not wrong because his intentions were pure. He was looking for Sita and he can look no other place other than the ladies' quarters. Where can he look? If he is looking for a woman, he has to look in the place where there will be women. So his intentions were pure. That is why I am not wrong. So you can take this as a case study. to present in the class, especially those who are interested in human resource management, because for them, for HR people, this harassment is a important issue. Making policies against workplace harassment is an important topic for them. So when you bring this kind of case study in the class, it will make for a very interesting discussion, and you can get some new opinions you can get from the students. Then these are some quotations from Tirukural that I got. I will not go into all of them for want of time. So here is the second one that I am second bullet point. You can see a king must act after measuring the strength of his plan, his own resources, the strength of the enemy, and that of the ally. So in bracket I have written PRAT, P-R-A-T, plan, resources, allies, and threats. So management people will know this SWOT analysis. There is something called as SWOT analysis or TWAS analysis. I have called it PRAT analysis. So you can develop a model of PRAT analysis based upon this quotation from Tirukural you can take, and you can develop the PRAT analysis as an alternate to SWOT analysis. Here is a other quotation. A people may not have either strength or strongholds. Still, it is difficult to beat them or fight them when they are fighting on their own soil. So it shows that if you are playing to your own strengths, it is very difficult to beat you. That is why so many business models have failed in our India. For example, Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts established in India, but it could not beat. It could not progress. It could not become such a big thing in India. Like that, there are some companies like Ford also. I heard that Ford is shutting down all its operations and going away. So unless you are completely assimilating yourself in the culture of a particular country, the business cannot take off. Why Tata is there so much after so many years? Also Tata is there. This Adani is so look at the third point over here. One can succeed in attempt to conquer the world if the right time and the right place are chosen. So this Adani, that Hindenburg report was released at the right time, just before the Adani group was supposed to give that FPO or something, that some public option, something it was going to give. Just before that, they released the Hindenburg report. So look at the timing, and the stock fell by such a great thing. I read he lost some 70 billion rupees or something like that, dollars or something like that. I read. So everything depends upon the timing. So the Hindenburg took this. I'm not saying that Hindenburg people read Tirukural or something, but I'm just telling that business for the good business, you need to start it, or you need to take the right steps at the right time. Right. So this you can put in the class or as an inspirational quote somewhere in a small box. You can put to tell the students that, see, this kind of wisdom existed in our literature or something like that. Yeah, I have other quotes, but if we have some time or if further discussion is required, I can take them up. I will just warn you about some methodological issues that you may face when you are taking this kind of a study. So before you do this, you should be aware of the foundational issues or the presuppositionals of Indian business and management. So for all our Indian tradition, there are some foundational concepts like dharma, karma, etc., the atma, the desire for moksha, etc. These are all some foundational values that all of us share, whether we are teachers or whether we are business people or whether we are laborers, whatever it is, some foundational values we have. And we have to be aware of those. We have to read the text within those foundational values. Then you may face the issues about language. I don't know Sanskrit. How can I read this, etc.? I don't know Tamil. How can I read Tirukural? For all of them, translations are available. I have particularly taken only popular works. I have have not taken some very obscure, those only existing in some manuscript like that. I have not taken. I have taken popular works, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Jataka tales. All of these have English translation. Of course, translation is a problem. For example, the joint stock organization. This is not, only economics people should tell whether this translation is correct or not. So you have to know little bit, whenever you face that translation, just consult your neighbor Sanskrit person who knows little bit Sanskrit. You please ask them what could be the various meanings, etc. You ask them, and be a little careful about the translation, because for concepts which are very complex, it is not possible to translate very one-to-one translation is not possible. So just be aware of those kinds of translations and be aware of what kind of works these are. So if you see, they will have just a manual. Okay, do this, do this. When the price is this, do this kind of fine. When the fine is this kind of crime. So they will be only manuals that these works are. You will not get theory from them. The theory is taught by the teacher to the student in the oral way. It is your job now to extract out the theory from those procedures and those manuals. Okay, so you don't look at the manual or the book and say, yeah, these are just a set of rules. What theory is there? No theory is there. No, theory is there. From the theory only those rules were written. That theory was told to the student in oral way. We don't have documentation for that. That doesn't mean that there was no theory. There was theory. It is our job now to reconstruct that theory based upon the manuals or whatever that we have. And when you're reading these texts, please avoid both extremes. On the one side, don't have uncomprehending devotion, this is the word used by Dharampal. So IKS has, everything is there in IKS, our system is perfect, etc. Madam used one word, sustainable. Yes, it was sustainable, but sustainable does not mean perfect. Okay, so there can be various models of sustainability also. So don't be on this extreme thinking that, oh yeah, IKS, everything is there in our IKS, we can do everything. So don't have that kind of thing. And on the other hand, don't read too much into the text also. Okay, that you read string theory into the Gita, or you read governance in Purusha Sukta, etc. Don't do this kind of extra thing. How much ever the text allows you, that much only elasticity should be there. Don't unnecessarily look for too much elbow room in the texts. So the peer review culture will take care of this. No problem about that. So just be aware of these things. Here are some recommendations that I am giving what we can do. So exhaustive survey of testimonial records to collect information about the trade practices. So as I told, you just go through the testimonial records. I told you, the India that they saw. This is the book by Sandhya Jain and Meenakshi Jain. So you can just see this work, just to depute two interns, or just you yourself can sit and work for some weekends and see what are all the practices that we can extract from this. So what we need is a Dharampal for business management, just like Dharampal did for science and technology and public governance. We need a Dharampal for Bharatiya management also. So is any of you going to be Dharampal? Very good. Then the second thing is extensive survey of the current practices to build a repository of Indian business practices. So a lot of work has been done on these dabbawalas. Similarly, work has to be done on these diamond cutting industry, or some local practices that may be existing in various other parts of the world. So cottage industries, etc. What sort of practices or negotiation model or supply chain model, what they have, etc. This we have to go and do field research. This we cannot simply do desk research. We have to go there, we have to sit with them, find out how they do, how they manage conflict, etc. We have to find those things out. And then we have to build out indigenous models and theories, etc., which we abstract from the Indian manuals. So remember, when you see Arthashastra, you will not find straightforward theory over there. That theory has to be abstracted from it. In Arthashastra, you will find only one rule after another. Do this, do this, do this, do this, like that you will find. So why that rule has been come, we have to reconstruct the theoretical framework based upon our understanding of ancient India. So rather than fitting the modern theories into the ancient work, we have to try and reconstruct that work from there only. And we can also see from not just in Sanskrit, but we can see in the other regional languages also. So if there are any Arthashastra material in other regional languages, we can try and see what they are. So these are some of the recommendations I have. I just close with the kind of work that my students previously had already done. These are BBA students, mostly BCom BBA students, they have done. So some students wrote on how Krishna performed a SWOT analysis during the Mahabharata war, and then how we can understand conflict management from Mahabharata. There is something in management called two-dimensional model of conflict. So they applied that model and did something in the Mahabharata. The comparison between Maslow's need hierarchy and Purushartha. And some other student has written dice game episode with leadership and management. HR lessons from Sainya Nirnaya Parva. So this was another paper, how the Kauravas divided their army and how the leadership of their army and how the Pandavas divided the leadership in their army. So based on that, they tried to give some lessons for the management. Comparing Mahabharata with Tirukural, this was another topic that one of our students had done. So these are mainly undergraduate work for their assignment or something like that I had given, they had done. Much more scholarly work has to be done with a lot of evidence and supporting data and all those things. So you can think about what are all the various things that we can do. I'm just telling you that this is not impossible. To some extent, whatever little iota has been done by these students. So you can just have to increase the gear by many fold in order to give some substantial output. So with this, I end. So whatever questions are there, we can take in the end, as Madam said. So thank you, Madam.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving us such a brief overview and pointing directly towards different sources that shows the kind of the simplicity and the magnanimity of your understanding of the topic. Thank you so much, sir. So now we will get on to the third part of the last session. Now we have come to the last session, which is more important. Key. So let me introduce the speaker for the third speaker of the session, Dr. G.P. Sudhakar. He is the honorary professor at Center for Educational Social Studies. He obtained PhD from Osmania University on his work on retail store positioning, a study of 4 departmental stores in Bangalore. Having more than 20 years of experience in teaching and 2 decades in industry. So he held senior top management positions in president and manager, senior manager in different industries, Jaya Krishna Aluminium, SEA Packaging Industries. And along with the industrial experience, he has authored a book titled Integrated Retail Marketing and Communication. And he is also president of National and Rural Education Association, Gauri Bidnoor. He served on Bangalore University panel of experts for business program. Adding to the credit, he has assisted in developing new courses, syllabus, and conducted faculty development sessions for management area. And his research areas include employability of management graduate Tier 1, Tier 2 institutions, developing curriculum designs, and adding to this the Bharatiya management. So the last 2 years he has consistently published close to 5 to 6 papers in Scopus indexed and peer reviewed journals. So he's the brainchild behind the Bharatiya Management and Prabandhan portal wing, it is a knowledge repository which is being managed in CES. So it is a great privilege and honor to have you here, sir. So over to you, sir.
Namaste to all. Thank you, Sindhuja, for a flattering kind of introduction. I'm feeling like a ninth man now after, speakers like Dr. Venkatraghavan and Dr. Gauri Mahulvikar. I feel quite like a ninth person coming out to bat, but let me do what I can. So coming back, I have called this some ideas because these are entirely my ideas and how I look at how IKS can be brought into management education. At CES, actually, we have the mandate to bring Indian content into mainstream management education. What that means is not just in select B schools or in IIMs, where already a lot of courses based on Indian knowledge are available, but to our university systems and private universities, public universities, there is a need to bring in Indian knowledge, and I think the timing is also perfectly right. This is a slide I have been sharing for some time. basically, I think it was Venkatraghavan who mentioned, that more than anything, this kind of study will give us some confidence about the past, which also brings more confidence for now. So everybody talks about Vasco da Gama, but nobody talks about Kanji Malam, who escorted his ship to India. He was an Indian sailor. And when we get into the details about Kanji Malam, you will understand what a thriving Gujarati business community existed in West Africa much before Vasco da Gama. The picture actually that I have taken here is from the Maritime Museum in Cochin. Unfortunately, even here, they don't mention Kanji Malam. They just say Indian pilot. And stories like Sadal Putra, you'll find a lot in Jain literature and Buddhist literature. They have identified many business people. So Sadal Putra and his entire Ganges supply chain he was like somebody who owned 500 shops across the various towns in the Ganges region. Jagat Seth got the title Fateh Chand from a Mughal emperor for introducing or saving the nation by introducing a hundi system. Basically, there was a problem that the treasury was out of funds. And so Jagat Seth goes from Calcutta to Delhi and he introduces the hundi system, and suddenly economy starts to revive. And the statue that you can see is that of Kaundinya, an Indian businessman who became the first king in, I'm sorry, I'm missing the country just now, but Cambodia. He was the first king of Cambodia, and he was an Indian businessman. But none of these stories, unfortunately, form part of our curriculum or, are ever taught. Yeah. So Indians, began business many, many years ago. There is substantial evidence. I'll just quickly go through something that I felt was worth sharing, is that what we are doing today and what this present NEP talks about, or what is the change that is expected. Basically, if you look at the Bharatiya system of education, it's more about focus on man-making education. We think about Vivekananda or anybody, they talk about man-making education, where there is a freedom to learn, and very importantly, creating a harmonious world. Even the present, whether it's whether Prime Minister Modi or whoever, they talk about India being a place where we are trying to create a harmonious world, sustainability. Also, rather than being information focused, we are looking at inner growth, and lifelong learning. So these are I think that some of the broader or larger changes that are expected and are happening also in the world of education. So we are not trying to create a selfish world, not focusing on employment, but doing things now slightly different. Now, just some book titles. I'm not going to discuss all of them, but then two I want to talk about. The Man Who Broke Capitalism. Okay, this is a book about how General Electric's focus on quarterly results and not looking at all stakeholders equally, but focusing on only the stock market, actually more or less, crushed the soul of corporate America. That's what the book talks about. It crushed the soul of corporate America. Similarly, you look at on the other extreme, The Golden Passport. It's a book about how Harvard Business School has not done its job in terms of moral failure of the MBA graduates. And there are many case studies about how the moral failure of the MBA graduates coming out of Harvard has created a lot of problems for the world. So there are a lot of issues like that. There is a book on Enron, the rise and scandalous fall of Enron, and actually the man who broke capitalism and at any cost, both are all about Jack Welch. So what I am trying to say is there is a lot of content today coming up. Okay, the world is just the beginning, mapping the collapse of globalization and how central bankers rigged the world. Of course, there are also some newer ideas about how today we need to deliver both on purpose and profit. It's not only about profit, which was the focus of business till now and has been actually focus of business for quite some time now. But I think that idea is probably now going away. Yesterday I was reading about Narayan Murthy's statement. He was addressing a press question where they asked him if he was still involved in Infosys. And he says, no, Infosys, nobody consults me from Infosys for anything. And I watch from the outside to see if they are practicing compassionate capitalism. So I am just thinking this idea is very close to Dharma. I mean, we can compare and contrast. Actually, if you were to look up the internet for the meaning of compassionate capitalism, you will come to a definition that is quite close to Dharma about multi-stakeholders and all of that. So is there a uniquely Indian model of corporate governance? Is our purpose of business different from profit? Is the method of decision making different? How do we motivate our? So is there an Indian way? We have to think about this. So actually, I feel the NEP 2020 is an opportunity to make changes, and management education, including actually, I read a statement by, I think, somebody in the IIMA saying the MBA as we know it is dead. So there is a kind of perfect timing now to offer an MBA. I'm glad Dr. Shankaran is here as one of the participants. He is doing work on developing an Indic MBA. That is from the philosophical constructs of building an entirely Indian management program. So I believe, the things around us are good for thinking about bringing IKS into management education. How do we go about it actually in practice? The first area is, of course, the educational content itself in terms of curriculum, in terms of examples, in terms of pedagogy. So everything that happens in the classroom, we can bring in relevant, useful Indian content. Culture of the institution, very important, I believe. I think there are 2 books written about how, the jacket, providing the jacket or the coat has really, has been the bane of the MBA program. So I think, the culture of the institution in many ways, in the daily routine, the dress code, everything, and how these teachers are examples. Another area of bringing India into the classroom is increased connect with local industry, institutions, history, and the way of life, extracurricular activities, and the role model or the mentorship, personalized input from the faculty. This is, I think, the more important difference in how we bring Indianness into the classroom. Basically, if you look at the content for Indian, management, I think IKS offers or comes in 3 different areas. Many of these already discussed by previous speakers, but I have divided them into 3 parts. One is concepts, ideas, constructs based on India's ancient wisdom and also history. Then concept, practices, case studies which are uniquely Indian and contemporary. So this is what we can offer to the world, I believe. And there is research methods that are unique to India also, which can contribute. So now, whether we have sufficient management knowledge that we can own and be proud of, I believe, yes, because I think Dr. Venkataraman mentioned about management of international trade. Then there was management of temples with Dr. Maulikar spoke about the sustainability of temples. They manage kingdoms, they manage water, lot of resources. And so I think there is substantial experience in management. However, are these ancient ideas relevant for today's managers? That is something that one can discuss. If you look at the top management schools, the IIMs, some of the US universities, they are already using many sources from ancient India, the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Mahabharata, Arthashastra, Panchatantra and management, very popular course, Thirukural management again. In fact, why we thought about doing this repository at CES of Indian, Bharatiya management was that if you start looking for journal articles where Mahabharata and management both are written about, you will find at least 3,000 to 5,000. If you search for Ramayana and Mahabharata, you will find another 5,000 articles. And so it's unimaginable the amount of work that has been done connecting ancient Indian wisdom to management. However, these are not categorized as Indian management or Bharatiya management. Suppose they have written about motivation, then you will find it in a HR journal or something like that. If it is about leadership, you will find it obviously in a magazine or in a article under the section leadership and not as Bharatiya management. But material is humongous, I can assure you that. For example, this is Vijay Govindarajan. He has talked about the Holy Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, and he talks about it as, the concept of time is not linear. Right? So there are many examples one can look at. Lot of such work is available. So similarly about how motivation in India or this, whether it is in Mahabharata or in Ramayana, the way they motivate is not the eccentric type, it's the intrinsic. And they talk about the person, his previous achievements, and the objectives, the broader objectives and things like that. And so it's a way of motivation, for example, is quite different. And similarly, you can find for every topic, there is an Indian method. And of course, like Dr. Venkataraman very, I think made a very important observation. We should not believe that we have an answer to every problem, but even to look at and to contrast with the Western method will be interesting, I believe. Okay, and the next one is a contemporary, case studies which are uniquely Indian. The Arvind Eye Hospital, well written about, the Kumbh Mela. Why is, Arvind Eye Hospital is a Harvard case study, but is not available in a regular MBA program in every university. So it's very strange thing. Similarly, business practices of Marwadis, Chettiars, Parsis, lot of material is available. And there are some interesting, for example, Indian retailers, how do they calculate profit? A BBA or an MBA is not aware of that. Straight away, we are only talking about the corporate entities. We never talk about the smaller guys who are forming a major part of our economy. Similarly, concepts such as Jugaad, frugal innovation, is very much an Indian kind of concept. Bottom of the pyramid opportunity, of course, C.K. Prahlad wrote about it. But if you read his original article, he got the idea basically from the Nirma winning over Hindustan Lever. Okay, so that is where the origin of the idea. And people, or rather corporates across the world, multinationals across the world, his article was addressed to the multinationals, and multinationals across the world have benefited from this concept, which he actually learned from Nirma. You know, even in Southern America or in Africa, large corporates have targeted this part of the market earlier ignored by them. The other opportunity, I believe, for all of us is the local and hyper-local content that needs to be generated for our courses. Unfortunately, this is not yet happening. This is another important way we can bring in IKS. Yeah, I already discussed this, basically, that, you know, lots of material is available, books are available. Unfortunately, they are not available as a textbook. You know, for example, Bhagavad Gita for Managers is a book, but it is not divided into chapters that are suitable for a classroom, nor do they provide slides with that, and so like you know, a Kotler or something like that. And therefore, we are missing out on many Indian books and also journal articles, because faculty is choosing the easy way out of you know, going with ready-made textbooks, which are basically mostly from the Western publishers. Okay, but it is there are books, and we can get a lot of material. I've just given a short list of some books and authors which I believe should come into the Indian classroom. I can give you a much longer list, but just wanted to restrict to 2-3 slides. So, for example, you know, Indian psyche, how do Indians behave? How do they respond? None of this is taught to a manager who's graduating in India. Similarly, we talk about consumer behavior model and all of those things, but Indian consumers, how are they different from others? Okay. And we don't ever have such material in the classroom. Similarly, about advertising and branding, you know, if you look at Ambi Parmeshwaran's book or Piyush Pandey's book, rarely you will find it in the textbooks recommended in our MBA programs. Ambi Parmeshwaran's book was about the Amul brand, and I think, you know, every Indian should be proud of the Amul brand. And we are still learning about, say, you know, some American brands in our classrooms. Similarly, Professor S.L. Rao's consumer classes about Indian demographics. Lots of wonderful books about being a professional manager, R. Gopalakrishnan, Subrato Bagchi, Prakash Iyer. None of this you will find. Actually, at the Chanakya University, we have tried to introduce this the book by Subrato Bagchi, as one of the courses where the 12 qualities of a professional will be discussed with the Indian stories that Subrato Bagchi has connected with each quality of a professional. So similarly, books about Indian business ethics from an Indian perspective is a books, plenty of books. Because I can, those who are interested, we can make a very much longer list, but I'm saying there are lots of material available. I have left out the thousands and thousands of journal articles. In fact, my student, one guy, I asked him to do a meta-analysis of what is the main idea that management professors or people who have written in journal articles about management, what is the main idea they have taken out of Mahabharata. And I said, you do a meta-analysis about 100 journal articles, And you will be surprised, in 3 days, he came up and said, I've got already 150 journal articles where from management journals where they're using Mahabharata, right? So now we are trying to do some analysis of that. So what I'm trying to reassure you is there is plenty of material. Okay, so similarly, another area we can bring into the management is the Indian method of research. You know, rather than a linear concept of time, we are talking about a cyclical concept of time. We are also talking about experience being very important form of proof. There is nothing like, experience, which means the students, we should build more opportunities for them to experience, maybe more field trips, more internships, even in small places of business and things like that. So that is one way we can bring IKS into the classroom. We also have a lot of value for reflection. Unfortunately, we are not taught reflection. We are not given the time for reflection. We are covering syllabus, I don't know what for. So reflection is something we can teach, and definitely also provide time in our curriculum for that. So just take you through quickly what may be interesting that one can take out from this ancient Indian wisdom or from contemporary case studies. Just as an example, for example, if you look at international trade history, okay, we have material from one CE. There's an author from author from Holland who has written about international trade, and he's written it in one CE, and he talks about trade routes and things like that, where India is without doubt the leader of international trade at that time. So similarly, supply chain, the Ganges River supply chain, we never discuss. Caravans, there are a lot of books about caravans and their unique practices. Yeah, but none of our students get the benefit to know about this. Recently, we were trying to find out, the finance minister carrying the Bahi Khata. So they're saying this is the Indian method of double entry bookkeeping. We did some work, and we can say without much doubt that India was where double entry came into being. In fact, some of the Indian Gujarati and Marwadi businessmen had not 2 columns, but they had 8 columns. Okay, very interesting. The history of accounting and originates into India, and there are some Indian methods also of financial control and other budgeting and things like that. Very valuable, interesting, that one can bring into the curriculum. Yeah, economics actually, Dr. Kanaka Sapapati's book, Indian Economic Models, gives like so many case studies about India's economic model. For example, I just remembering one case study where he talks about 80% of India's large trucks, that means those 16 wheels and whatever, 24 wheels, those trucks, 80% are owned in one village in Tamil Nadu, I think Namakkal or somewhere like that. And why is it so? And how those businesses actually are concentrated there, and how are they organized? So things like that. So a lot of case studies are there. The Indian method of crowdsourcing funds, like that, many things are there. But essentially, I just picked out the first page from the contents page of his book, and he talks about the features of the Indian economic model. It's family-based, high level of saving, self-employment, as against the Western model, which is about consumerism, decline of savings, state dependence, whereas Indians are not so state dependent. So I think valuable to bring to our classrooms. So economics, you can go back from Arthashastra to a book by Dr. Kanaka Sapapati, which is based on a lot of field work, and presently how we are kind of working and different from the rest of the world. Yeah, so I have just listed, again, this is not a complete list, very short list of courses which are already there. So one thing is, simple thing is to just pick up a course that is running elsewhere and import it into our curriculum. So IIMB's, management paradigms from Bhagavad Gita, very popular course. I think most students take up this course. And similarly, in Tirupati, they have a 2 years master in ancient Indian management techniques. ITM University have Mahabharata lessons in conflict. So there are Delhi University has many courses. In fact, I think Dr. Ajay, who is heading the commerce department at Delhi University, was earlier vice chancellor of Sri Sri University in Orissa, and he has introduced many interesting courses there from IKS, which I have not listed, but there are a lot of similarly, University of Calicut has got Prachina Manijya, that is ancient business for BCom program. Okay, and they have courses on Arthashastra. XLRI's Indian Philosophy and Leadership Excellence. I urge every one of you to go through the syllabus of this course. Wonderful it is. XLRI is available online, their course on Indian Philosophy and Leadership Excellence. Indian Ethos and Human Equality Development, very popular course across many universities, unfortunately not found in the management program, but other programs. PG Pathshala already has readily some courses. Mumbai University has Indian Management Thought. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, the list goes on. Spiritual and cultural heritage. NIT Roorkela has got application of Kautilya's Arthashastra in modern India. Okay, and for example, there are courses like Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, learning what is not taught. I think you must have heard about Mr. Gopalakrishnan, the director of Tata Sons. He has written many books. This course is based on one of his books. Wonderful lessons for somebody who is just starting out as a manager, purely based on Indian stories and Indian case studies. For example, he has written about a guy who is the vice president marketing of some large corporate, very successful, and then he becomes the secretary or something of the apartment association where he is staying, and he becomes an absolute miserable failure. And why is that? So things like that, and this is you can easily relate to, because that apartment block and how it functions, how his company peon or his subordinate works with him, all of that taken purely from Indian context, and it is so something that every student can easily kind of relate to. Kanagappa Savapati, he actually offered this course online at Center for Indian Studies, Indian Models of Economy, Business and Management. Interesting course is available online. If you look at the major themes, okay, from India, you can look at universalism, you can look at dharma and decision making. In fact, our Sindhuja here, she is working on preparing a course outline in this area of dharma and decision making for management students, ethics, purpose of organization, self-management. Unfortunately, This again, very critical area. You will find courses on self-management based on the Gita in maybe 100 of the 300-400 universities that we have. At least 100 of them have got this course, self-management based on the Gita, but it is not there in management programs. It is there in the Sanskrit programs or history programs and things like that. There are some online sources. The Rare Book Society of India, Government of India's Indian Culture website. IKS India also has some resources, and we at CES, we have got, like I said, an online repository, and so this is a growing list. But what I'm trying to say is there is many of these ancient texts have been digitized by the Government of India or by some grants in the US and things like that, and most of them are available for one to kind of go through. IKS itself is very fascinating, what I can say, and worthwhile for each of us to spend some time connecting what we are doing with what happened in the past, and many lessons to learn there. I think Dr. Venkatragaman mentioned this already, but I no harm in repeating because it is so important that interpretation of text is one risky area. We should be careful. Ideally, look for what are considered good interpretations or good translations. Second is, we should not look at it as nostalgic research, like saying that everything, India has a solution for everything. I think a lot of management has evolved in the last 100 years, especially tools for managing corporate entities, tools for multinationals. These have emerged in the last maybe 100 years. So we should always, I think, learn both from our past, our current, India's current, and also globally. There are some good theories and practices from the West. We should definitely incorporate them into our programs. So the balanced approach is what probably will work. There are variations in terms of this interpretation of text, and absence of structured textbooks. If any of you or each of you can come up with one textbook, it will help a lot, because this is an area, if you want to start a course based on Indian content, then ready-made textbooks are not available. And so one need to kind of really, there's a lot of work for the professors. Who can bring IKS into the classroom? If you are part of the curriculum development team, definitely you can. If you are a textbook author, you can. School management, because the culture also is important. So the school management will also have to think about bringing IKS, and more importantly, the most important is the professor inside the classroom. I say one opportunity NEP gives us is the moving away from being a professor to becoming a guru. I'll explain in a minute, but for example, things like our personal ethical behavior and all of that are going to matter, I believe, in the future. So this is from the NEP, straight away picked out of some lines from the NEP. It says shift away from rote learning. Of course, rote learning itself is a debatable thing. Some kind of benefits of chanting and things like that are there, surely. But the limitations of rote learning is basically when people are not taught meaning and stuff like that. You're simply memorizing without doing anything before or after that. We need to prepare students with skills, critical and creative thinking skills, all of this, right? Now, what does it mean for each one of us? This is probably my last slide or the second last slide. What I request is the best way for us to bring IKS into the classroom is to move away from being a teacher to becoming a guru. So which means you're not providing information, but you're providing an experience. You're not somebody who is knowing things and dispensing things, but you are actually living the part because you know or having experienced it, you're able to share something. And unfortunately, both students and teachers are looking at it as a transaction. Students look at it as I am a paid customer, and similarly, teachers are looking at it that way. Very sad, but it's always one way, and teachers should become generous in that way. So, and we should aim for transformation rather than addition of information to the student, and build a mind connection, no, build a heart connection. Okay, so there's a big difference between Vidyarthi and Shishya, and we should hope and work towards, cultivating Shishyas. Yeah. So this is the last slide. Where do we go from here about bringing IKS into the management? It's all about doing research, because there are many case studies around us not yet documented, especially small business case studies. Our entire MBA program is now designed for only a few corporates, which hardly form 20% of our economy. And then there is opportunity for research into ancient methods or ancient literature for ideas. There is opportunity for research on communities. There are many business communities, there are many artisan communities, there are many which have been surviving for maybe hundreds, if not thousands of years, and they have their own very unique methods, which may offer some solutions for today's problems. Also, start looking at every student as an individual with potential, okay, and build local network. This is another area I feel, we can do a lot, is building a local network. We don't even know the shops around our college. We have not visited them and inquired, for example, how do they do business and things like that. So this is my take on how to bring IKS into management education. Obviously, each one of you will have a much different and maybe better ideas, but I thought we need to have some starting point as to how one can bring it into the management curriculum. I'm sure you can do much better than this, and I look forward to hearing your experiences. So this, at CES, we are trying to build a community of people interested in Bharatiya management. So if you have built a course, if you have delivered some talk or whatever in this area, we are happy to listen to you and share it with the others. Look forward. Thank you very much for a patient hearing.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much. Now we will get on to the question and answer session. A few questions are here. So I request Paushali Datta to continue with Q&A. Over to you, Paushali.
Thank you so much, ma'am. First of all, I would just like to thank all the speakers for such a beautiful start to all of our weekends. So to proceed with the Q&A session, as GP Sudhakar sir emphasized on the Indian research methods, one of our participants has asked, what could be the effective research methodologies for studies related to IKS, because sometimes the abstracts are rejected due to poor research design. So if all the panelists could just put some light on this.
Yeah, so I agree that many of the abstracts are rejected purely because we are trying to satisfy a journal or other. Many of the Western journals, they believe that they have that methodology is the best and only one. Like you take, for example, one where you take sample or you try to work out some scientific basis, right? Whereas in Indian methodology, it may be one's personal experience. It may be one's direct experience. That is one thing that we value. And so if that is not there, it doesn't mean that just because the numbers don't match. Okay, I keep quoting this example. I think many of you who have listened to me earlier, please bear with me for repeating this example. But one example I share always is that, there is a lot of research going on about past life. And the professors at Niemans, Bangalore, they have written 2 books, I think, about past life experiences. And for example, in their study about past life, out of 100 cases that come to them, 97 are fake. Right? 97 are fake. That means, parent is trying to say that she or he had a past life, but actually there was no conclusive evidence to say that they had a past life experience. Now, but if you go by our Indian methodology, okay, we have to look at those 3 also. Whereas if you go by statistics, 97 is an overwhelming kind of frequency to reject and say, so you will have to say 97 are fake, means this entire business of past life is fake. Whereas I think if you were to adopt the Indian methodology and say, okay, let us look at those 3 also and give it some weight, then if 3 are conclusive, good enough, isn't it? Why should you need all the 100 to prove to you? If you are convinced about 3 and it has met all your requirements, it is quite good. So, but if I were to send this to a Western journal, unlikely it will be published, because it's very obvious that 97 out of 100 you are fake. So this whole thing is fake. But you think about it in our day-to-day life also. If our experience is far greater in value than these numbers, right? So if 3 students or 3 children proved that they had a past life and we were able to actually judge them, and we are convinced that they had a past life, then that's it. So we will have to be selective in kind of the journals we choose. Research methodology about past, what I suggest is about ancient journals, our IKS. I would suggest, if you are going through reading the Mahabharata, for example, I would say you look at least 2 translations or 3 translations and try to compare, and then arrive at the conclusion, rather than basing it entirely on one translation. So similar works you should probably compare. That's my only recommendation. Thank you. I've taken a lot of time to respond. Yeah. Dr. Gauri ma'am, you please kind of elaborate. I think you are better than me to kind of explain.
No, I'm not better than you. I agree with you. See, there are objective and subjective 2 types of methods. Normally, when the research journals, they reject any article, sometimes they feel there are more subjective views presented in that. And journal as such, I mean, a researcher has to be passive, like a Sakshi Bhava. He has to do the research and not impose or not be biased, jaundiced by one's own opinions and all. So I think behind rejection, there could be the objectivity as the criterion, which is most important for any research journal. That's what I feel.
Venkat sir, if you would also like to add something.
No, this is not in my area. So.
Okay, sir. So another question we have for all of our panelists are, what are your views about the role of Bharatiya knowledge in developing the future work skills of our youth? And based on your experience, how do management institutions develop the future work skills of the students?
Yeah,
so over to Sudhakarji.
No, there are different kinds of skills. So first of all, we must understand that there are various skills, and not all of them can be created with IKS as the basis, right? So there are many 21st century skills which have to come from other sources. However, for example, I have just shown you many book covers and things like that, where we find that many business failures are because of the lack of ethical character. Now, this is something that can be definitely developed with our kind of education. Similarly, if you talk about skills like negotiation, skills of managing the self, very critical for managers. So these are skills that we can definitely bring in with this knowledge. Yeah, skills of how do I compute using the Excel sheet? Definitely, we need to go elsewhere for that.
Thank you so much, sir. Next question I have is for Gauri ma'am. One of our participants has asked if you could just give more information about how the Konark temple was built using magnetism. And another question is whether the Kattapayadi system is contributed by Aryabhatta.
Kattapayadi system was not invented by Aryabhatta. Aryabhatiya uses it. But I think before Aryabhatta, it was used, and I have given Haradatta's thing. In fact, some people say, especially here in Kerala, they say that this was perhaps invented by Vararuchi. So who comes 2-3 centuries before Haradatta or 5 centuries before Aryabhatta. But I am not an adhikari on that. Okay, that is the second question. The first question was, can we know more about the building of the Konark temple, especially using the magnetism? I don't know, because, during the process of, when it was being built for 12 long years, we don't have any documentation for those 12 long years. So how exactly that principle was used and all, I am not a person who will be able to throw light on this, I feel. If anybody else knows, it's okay. But I personally, I'm unable to answer this, how exactly it was done.
Of course, ma'am. Ma'am, there's another question I think that would be appropriate to direct to you. Is the NAP 2020 aiming to develop a Gurukul system of education? Will it be acceptable for the corporates who are mostly in a business mind?
I think I touched it briefly. We can partially follow the Gurukul system. I don't think we can follow it as it was many years back, in totality. So, for example, I mentioned one thing that in ancient Gurukula system, the Guru Dakshina was offered only after the Avabrita Snana, when the person graduated and went and left Gurukula. But now no Gurukula can learn without, no Gurukula can run without having some sort of, revenue or some sort of grant for running it. So I don't think in modern days we can run it as it was. You have to, one has to mold it to suit the present scenario. Not the economic module may not help now in the present days, but the methodology thing can move, can run, or the different methodologies for different types of people. For example, I may quote from Shankaracharya himself. He is there behind me. So Shankaracharya had so many shishyas. One of the shishyas called Totaka, Totaka, he was named later, Giri. He was a mandabuddhi, so to say, especially in comparison to a very intelligent student called Padmapadacharya. He became Acharya later, but Padmapada, he himself considered himself to be very, knowledgeable and erudite scholar and all that. And once Guru was waiting for all the students to come together to teach something, and he said, anyhow, that Giri is a dull, stupid fellow. He won't understand. Why don't you start your exposition? Right? And then Guru thought, no, this is the time now that Giri has to be enlightened. So long Giri was, doing all the seva, washing Guru's clothes and all. That day also he had gone for washing Guru's clothes. And he was delayed from the river. He didn't come back in time. And then on his way back, That was the time for the guru to assess, yeah, now he is prepared to get the knowledge, I must enlighten him. And then it just happened as a revelation. And when Giri came there, he came, reciting the stotra, Vidita Khila Shastra Sudha Jalade. And that was composed in the Totaka meter, and therefore he was named as Totakashtaka. I mean, the same time, everybody should be adhikari to get the knowledge. That doesn't happen. So that sort of methodology could be adopted in certain proportions, I feel. As I said, not all 5 fingers are the same. So even a mother for 2 sons, I have 2 sons and I know how different they are. So the same methodology, the same care or same expectations from both, it can't work. It can't work. It has to differ according to the capacity, the capabilities, the aptitude and attitude of everybody. So that's sort of, we expect everybody to score 90% and above. That won't happen. That won't happen. And every parent also should not do it. And every teacher also shouldn't expect it. That is the whole funda.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such a beautifully simplified explanation of a complex question. Another question I think if Venkata sir would like to address is that how can we bring the essence of IKS on international platforms? No problem. If any of our other panelists would like to contribute to the question.
I can say something on that, though I'm not a master. See, in my own humble way, what I think is, what we want to bring IKS first on national platform, and then we'll go for international platform. And what the mistakes sometimes we all people do, I mean, all those who are the upholders, the pataka is in our hands, sometimes we try to do, and that Venkat, I think, addressed that particular point, that we cannot go on finding each management module or each management principle. Oh, we have it there in our Subhashita, we have it there in the Gita or the Upanishads or Hitopadesha and all that. We can't go on doing that. On the other hand, while reading these IKS texts, if we come across some principle, why not highlight it? It shouldn't be the other way. It should be from our core knowledge and from our own core systems, how we can develop something which can be beneficial to the entire world at a later stage. At least the Indians themselves should be convinced that, yeah, they can find something out of this. That should be the approach, I think. One example I can tell you, my husband is a management professor. I mean, he retired as a dean of a management school and marketing, that too marketing. So he was just asking me once, do you have marketing in Sanskrit? I said, ample Subhashitas are there, ample examples are there. And I just told him one Subhashita, which became very popular among his students, he told me later on. That is, the context is Kshirasagara Manthana. Okay, and in the Kshirasagara Manthana, Lakshmi also comes out and Hala Hala also comes out. The Lakshmi is given by Samudra, the father, to Vishnu. Pitambaram Viksha Dadau Tanujam. And Hala Hala Digambaram Viksha Cha Hala Halam. Because this Vishnu comes in nice silk robes and all that, So how that packaging should be, how marketing should be. Unless you package it, wrap it in a nice form, the commodities can't be sold. So that's the marketing fundamental principle. So we have Subhashitas, but then this was just to, convince him, yes, we are not, hamare yahan kuch nahi hai, aisa nahi hai, we have everything. But I think that approach is not good everywhere. We must try to learn from our own mistakes also many times. We should not commit the same mistakes. And while reading it, if you come across something, if that principle is not taught in any management school, any B school, even then we should be able to point it out as this is something which is, for a teamwork. I mean, Jambavan telling Hanumanji, Jambavan telling Hanumanji, yes, you are capable of doing it. Why are you afraid? When they are sitting just, when they see the vast ocean in front of them and they are like helpless, how do we go to Sri Lanka? How do we go to Lanka? And then Jambavan comes and tells him. So this is like a true leader can find out the potential of each person, each employee, and then motivate him to do some task which he finds to be humongous and undoable, but that could be doable by him. So such examples, while reading, we should come across that. I don't know whether this is listed in the management principles.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It's very beautifully put thoughts.
Gaurish ji wants to tell something.
Actually, I have a question. If Sindhuja permits me, I will ask that question.
To me?
Yeah, I think this question very particularly to Raghavan sir.
Raghavan ji. Oh, then I'm saved.
Basically, we are seeing an approach or a trend where most of the Western concepts in management that we take and we'll try to find references in our scripts, ancient scripts. So whether it is leadership theories or motivation, whatever that you take, or even managing self or managing an organization, society or economy, wherever that management term comes, we'll try to find some sources in our ancient scripts. This is the approach many people are following. But I have the strong opinion that, for example, we have something called US management, Japanese management. The very original thought comes from those countries or the work which has happened in those countries. Like that, can we find some roots of management in our own Indian ethos, in Indian scripts? Was there any something, can we call it as Indian management or Bharatiya management? Or can we, through our ancient works and practices, can we say this is management, whether it is self-management or organization management or society, whatever? So what is that conflicting thing that I'm bringing here? I think all three of you can answer. So
I am very much tempted. Raghavan,
Yeah.
before you kind of come in, I want to say,
yeah,
what I try to share is something like that. See, today the world is tired of for-profit, tired of multinationals exploiting nature and not caring about the environment and all of those things. So if you go back to what is the Indian method, basically it answers a lot of the problems that are faced by the world today. And so when we talk about, for example, simple thing about dharma and in terms of decision making, basically your multi-stakeholders are being addressed. So it's the same thing, right? The only thing is we have not marketed it as the solution for today's problems, but there is an Indian method, and Indian method consists of using whatever Raghavan and Madam talked about, this basic ideas emanating from India, that of dharma, karma, and all of these. Those are different for India than from the rest of the world. And I think that is what we should call as Bharatiya management, basically where we are talking about every stakeholder, not just profit. So that is the difference of Indian, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, Raghavan, then I will also have something.
Yeah, sure.
No. Please go ahead first, then last week.
Okay, so firstly, there is nothing wrong with this strategy of taking some concept from the West and saying that, see, this is there in India also. One thing that it does is that it, from a teacher-student point of view, from a pedagogical point of view, it makes the concept closer to the student. So till then, they will be reading it as like some alien concept that is being taught to us. But if we give them from some example from some Jataka tales or some Ramayana or something like that, they will think that, oh, this is there here, or nothing strange about this. Okay, let us learn. So it has that practical advantage that the student will learn faster. But as you said, the communication, the research should not be only in this direction. It should be this direction of research also should start. we should start exploring. The question of can is not at all there. Can we explore? It is there. I have showed you archaeological evidence, epigraphical evidence, literary evidence, all forms of evidence. I have shown you that trade and business have existed in Indian society. So it's just a question of abstracting and reconstructing that theory. Research has to be stepped up in that area. So that is what my answer would be.
Can I say something? See, the Indian way of management, as you were saying, Gaurishji, that Japanese way, Korean way, this way, that way. Indian way of management, I would like to have it in the Ekatra Kutumba Paddhati, one joint family. That is my model. How I tell you. I had in Karnataka, a very big family, and only one or two people were working. My own grandfather was not working, but his brother, he used to tend, look after the fields and the farms and all that. But his younger brother was sharp. He was, he used to do all the things. What I mean to say is, in a joint family of 20, 25 people, there is one head of the family. Whether he is literate or illiterate, due to his age, he is respected by one and all. That is number one. There are many people, there are some widows, distant widows. We don't, not directly connected with us. Some distant widows, like Bala Vidhava, they are staying in the house. Who's who, we don't know. There was one Tirkappa in our house. He used to fetch water from the well. Who's who, I don't know even now. Okay, so such people were there. They used to do whatever, like the Shrama work they used to do. Some would do the intellectual work. Some would go to the fields and do the thing. My mommy used to milk the cows and do the things. My aji, my grandmother used to cook for the gods. The sola plus vaipa, madi adigi. And then the others would they would like to serve. And this entire thing, is it not managing the entire thing? So when we call this Kutumba Paddhati and when we extend it, that's how we did it. That's what we did it in G20, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So if that Kutumba is mentioned, and Kutumba is maintained in that way, I think we can manage many more things. And we don't expect now, because we are living in silos, we have micro families. And if at all one guest comes to our house, we say, where do we put him? There is no bed. We used to sleep on a mattress, some 10, 20 of us in a large room. Nobody required a pillow, nobody required a blanket, separate one huge blanket. All 6, 7 of us used to share and pull from that and pull from this end. That was fun. We want everything for us now, my own thing. We have become very selfish. Self-centric. We should be like community-centric, and then many of the problems could be solved. I feel Kutumba, family, would work as an Indian model of management.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Also, thank you to Gorisha sir for providing the spark of such an invigorating discussion. The last question I think for today we will take, owing to paucity of time, is I will direct it to Venkata sir. So we have a question in which the participant is saying that business today is inseparable from technology. So is an Indic philosophy of technology along with the age of AI, so it needs to be addressed in the management education too? If so,
Yeah.
if are there any traditional resources so that they can start exploring business, technology, society, environment linkages?
Yeah, I just replied to that in writing. I can just respond for repetition's sake. See, AI or anything, any technology for that matter, comes under the broader category called Artha. So there are 4 Purusharthas: Artha, Kama, Dharma, and Moksha. These are 4 Purusharthas. And Artha is all material wealth comes under the category called Artha. So any technology, whether it be your JCB machine, whether it be your paisa, whether it be your capital, whatever it is, it comes under the category called Artha. And then there are general rules which are there for how Artha should be used in business and how it should be regulated by Dharma, which is a larger category. So from this larger framework, you can work down to AI and all these things you can work down to. but the overall conceptual framework of dharma regulating artha should take care of the how technology should balance should be used in business and things like that. More detailed answer than this I cannot give because it is not in my area.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Hopefully, all of our participants have got a response to most of our questions. By this, I think we will conclude the Q&A session today, and I will just hand over the rest of the session to Sindhuja ma'am.
The still questions are pouring in. That itself gives a mark for the success of the event. Now we are coming to the last part, the most important part, the vote of thanks. This is like indeed to give a small expression of gratitude is nothing. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Am I audible? Yeah. Sir, you wanted to say something, sir? Sudhakar sir? Okay. So I would like to express my gratitude to all esteemed delegates who participated in this virtual conference for their presence and contribution to make the whole discussion and the deliberation a success. On behalf of SES, I extend my gratitude to Honorable Speaker Dr. Gauri Maholikar for giving a solid foundation on how to integrate IKS, integrate, internalize, and initiate creative methods through her session. And thank you, ma'am, for inspiring and encouraging us with your words, ma'am. Now I like to express our sincere thanks to Dr. Venkatraghavan sir, especially igniting the spirit of doing research, management research in IKS, sources and concerns, and for putting a pointer towards can we have a Dharmapal kind of an contribution in management area. Certainly we take that as a takeaway for us. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your valuable time with us and expertise with us. And I extend my deepest gratitude to Professor G.P. Sudhakar, sir, Honorary Professor, and Honorary Professor of SES, for sharing current ideas and examples in integrating IKS into management across different higher educations and the ways of curriculum development aspects as well. At the end, I extend sincere gratitude Dr. Gaurisha, Director of SES, for all the support, guidance, and the timely preparations with us, and Dr. Padmavati ma'am, Head of the Education Unit, for giving immense support to make the whole virtual conference successful. Further, I extended my gratitude my colleague Dharani, Research Associate, for giving all the technical support, as well as Paushali Datta for moderating Q&A session. Last but not the least, all the participants who have gathered here to make this event more meaningful and purposeful, and our support staff and admin Shivkumar sir coming up early morning and make sure that all the preparations are set here. And altogether, I thank. If I have left anyone, please kindly forgive. At the end, I'd like to end the session with a Shanti mantra. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhagavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Wonderful speaking, listening to you. Same, Dr. Venkatraghavan, wonderful listening to you. I learned a lot today, and I hope you can share your PPT with me, and probably I will snatch some material from that.
Hari Om. Nice
Hi,
meeting
team.
you all here.
Yeah. Thank you, madam. Very nice seeing you again.
I think it's a
Bye.
good beginning.
This is a beginning, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hari Om.
Namaste.
Bye.